हेलो फ्रेंड्स, क्या हाल है दोस्तों। सबसे पहले पूरे देश को कारगिल विजय दिवस की बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। आज से 24 साल पहले बहुत ही मुश्किल हालात में देश के बहादुर सैनिकों ने, ऑफिसर्स ने हमारी जो मातृभूमि पर पाकिस्तान ने ऑक्यूपाई किया हुआ था उसको हमने खदेड़ा। तो 99 के कारगिल वॉर को 24 साल हो गए। मैंने पिछले साल भी बहुत यूट्यूब वीडियोस बनाई हैं, उस पर आप देख सकते हैं। आप लोगों ने बहुत अप्रिशिएट किया है। और इस साल फिर से कुछ दिन पहले मैंने वॉर कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंट विक्रमजीत सिंह से बात की और आज बात कर रहा हूं मैं ब्रिगेडियर देवेंद्र सिंह से। ब्रिगेडियर देवेंद्र सिंह एक्स एनडीए हैं, पैराफील्ड आर्टिलरी, लॉन्ग गनरी कोर्स किया है, इंस्ट्रक्टर ग्रेडिंग, स्टाफ कॉलेज भी किया है, उसके बाद हेलीकॉप्टर पायलट भी रहे। तो एक बहुत ही, अगर आर्मी की तरफ से देखा जाए तो वन ऑफ द मोस्ट ब्रिलियंट ऑफिसर्स दैट आई हैव कम अक्रॉस। ये बहुत कम लोगों में इस टाइप की क्वालिफिकेशन है। और जब कारगिल की लड़ाई हुई वो कमांडर 70 इन्फेंट्री ब्रिगेड थे। तो कमांडर 70 इन्फेंट्री ब्रिगेड रिजर्व ब्रिगेड थी। कश्मीर वैली से उनको वापस भेजा गया था इस लड़ाई के लिए, लड़ने के लिए। और किस प्रकार जब इनके पास सबसे पहले 111 GR 12 जैकलाई और ये यूनिट्स आई तो कैसे इन्होंने जो है पूरी प्लानिंग करी और किन सर्कमस्टांसेस पे इन्होंने जो है देश को ये विजय हासिल कराई। ये बटालिक के कमांडर थे। बार बार मैं बता रहा हूं, बटालिक, तुर्तुक, ये सबसे दुर्गम इलाका था, सबसे डिफिकल्ट टेरेन थी। वहां पर ब्रिगेडियर देवेंद्र सिंह ब्रिगेड कमांडर थे और इतिहास गवाह है। और जिस प्रकार से उन्होंने अपनी जबरदस्त लीडरशिप के साथ जो यूनिट्स कभी इनके पास थी भी नहीं ब्रिगेड में, उन यूनिट्स के साथ इन्होंने सबसे पहले बटालिक सेक्टर क्लियर हुआ था। और इंडियन आर्मी ने 8 पाकिस्तानी प्रिजनर ऑफ वॉर पकड़े थे इस लड़ाई में, उसमें से 6 बटालिक सेक्टर में पकड़े थे। सबसे पहले खबर भी पाकिस्तानी घुसपैठियों की बटालिक सेक्टर में पता चली। तो ये कम नहीं होगा अगर मैं कहूं कि ब्रिगेडियर देवेंद्र सिंह इज टाइगर ऑफ बटालिक। तो उनकी जुबानी सुनते हैं, उनकी कहानी, कैसे बटालिक में लड़ाई हुई, कैसे उनको पता चला। क्योंकि एज स्टूडेंट्स ऑफ मिलिट्री हिस्ट्री एंड स्टूडेंट्स ऑफ मॉडर्न इंडियन हिस्ट्री आपको पता होना चाहिए कि कारगिल क्यों हुआ, कैसे हुआ और किस प्रकार से ये यंग नौजवानों की लड़ाई थी, यंग ऑफिसर्स, यंग सोल्जर्स की, किन परिस्थितियों में इन्होंने जो है देश को ये विजय हासिल कराई। और इस लड़ाई में बहुत से जो है नौजवान लौट के घर नहीं आए। हम उनको याद करते हैं, उनको नमन करते हैं, लेकिन साथ के साथ हमें समझना चाहिए कि लड़ाई क्यों हुई थी। और इस लड़ाई की खासियत क्या थी बटालिक की, इस यहां पर एक परमवीर चक्र था, अमर योद्धा कैप्टन मनोज पांडे। तो वो इनकी यूनिट ब्रिगेडियर देवेंद्र सिंह की कमांड में जो है उन्होंने ये जबरदस्त अंजाम दिया। सो फ्रेंड्स, प्लीज वॉच दिस वीडियोस। ये जो वीडियोस मैं बना रहा हूं ये हमेशा रहेंगे और ये हिस्टोरिकल वीडियोस बन रही हैं। प्लीज watch them, like them and subscribe to my channel because my second innings is for your first innings. Thank you. Jai Hind. At the outset, sir, what an honor it is to host you. बहुत दिनों से मैं आपको जानता हूं और आपको बहुत एडमायर करते हैं फौज में। एंड बहुत खुशी हो रही है सर मेरे को आज कि लड़ाई के 24 साल हो गए हैं कारगिल की लड़ाई को। एंड आई हैव अ हीरो ऑफ कारगिल वॉर, ब्रिगेडियर देवेंद्र सिंह, विद मी ऑन दिस शो। सर, वेलकम सर, व्हाट अ प्लेजर टू सी यू।
Thank you, Yash, for being on your session. It's a privilege for me and look forward.
सर, आपके बारे में सब जानते हैं सर फौज में। जब कारगिल की लड़ाई हुई सर, आई वाज सीनियर मेजर एंड यू वर अ ब्रिगेड कमांडर। तो आपकी कहानियां, आपकी यूनिट्स और बटालिक, तुर्तुक का सर बहुत रोंगटे खड़े करने वाली बातें हैं। लेकिन मैं चाहता हूं थोड़ा देर में बात करेंगे। पहले जस्ट टेल मी सर, ब्रिगेडियर देवेंद्र सिंह की फौजी लाइफ कहां से शुरू हुई, थोड़ा अपना फैमिली बैकग्राउंड, स्कूलिंग, एंड व्हेन डिड यू जॉइन द एकेडमी, व्हिच यूनिट यू जॉइंड, सो दैट इट मोटिवेट द यंग जनरेशन कि हम भी यहां पहुंच सकते हैं।
I come from a simple second generation Fauji family, but my large number of cousin brothers, cousin sisters are married. My own 2 sisters are married into the army setup, both paratroopers. So, by and large, it's a Fauji background in which I was born, and did my schooling all over India, as happens to any Fauji kid there. And finally, education side, I was never a bright guy in the earlier days. I was, always lagging behind in class, backbencher, which has been through the forge also. But what do you call it? Finally, I landed up in a good school, St. Xavier's, Jaipur, by coincidence. And that 3 years in the boarding gave me some sort of grounding. And from there, I straight away went into, that was 66, I did my ISC. And in 67, January, I was there in the National Defense Academy. And I still remember, my mother pleading with my father, saying that he's been out for 3 years in the boarding school, and now let him have just 6 months with me, and then he'll appear again and get through. So my father was not too sure of my capabilities. So he says, no, he's got selected and let him go. And, so I found myself in January 67 in NDA, joined Julius Cotton. And then the system takes you. So 69, we graduated from there. And 70, we went to IMA Dehradun and passed out in December 70, 20 December 70 to be exact. There, and then I got artillery as a parent arm, and within that I got 9 parachute field regiment, but that comes afterwards. We went for young officers course to School of Artillery, Devlali. I did reasonably well there, and I got out of the 2 parachute regiments, 17 parafield and 9 parafield. I got the 9 parafield as it was a prestigious induction, so I got into that. And then this was, like I said, by July 71, we were in the unit. But moment we joined the unit, it was in Nahan, and already orders were there for us to move to Ganganagar, because we were part of the 2nd Para Brigade. There was one Para Brigade, if you recall, in the 71 war, which from Agra, 50 Independent Parachute Brigade, we did the Tangel drop and was involved in the 71 war in East Pakistan liberation. But 50 Para Brigade, 51 Para Brigade was given the defense of Ganganagar, and that is where we headed, and we were deployed along the Gang Canal.
So 71 sir, आप गंगानगर सेक्टर में थे as a young second lieutenant. तब तक आपने 9 parafield join कर लिया था सर?
Yes, I joined them in July, and then I was there with them for 2-3 months and moved the unit to Ganganagar from Nahan.
और आपने ये आपको सर आपने jumps
had been in 1 para. So that motivation was there that parachute to join करनी है, I mean that was a.
तो इसका मतलब ये है कि सर आपने वो आप बेशक थोड़े बहुत बैक बेंचर रहे हो, लेकिन यू आर फिजिकली टफ एनडीए में और आईएमए में भी, बिकॉज पैरा सर मुझे याद है हमारे बैचेस में भी आज भी जनरली वही लोग वही कैडेट्स ऑप्ट करते हैं पैरा के लिए जो थोड़ा सा टफ होते हैं और जिनमें थोड़ा सा अलग किस्म का जुनून होता है कि यार थोड़ा वी विल गो टू द एलीट फोर्सेस.
To be honest, I developed myself to become tough. To say in my younger days I was tough, I was a great sportsman. Sorry, no. But what do you call it? As the requirement came up in the NDA and then later on there, I always kind of tried to rise to the occasion, and that prepared me for this thing. And I then became tougher. I was later on commando course, I was a QI and all that. So like I said, it was there after the motivation started, and probably I did better than what I did in my schooling after joining the forge.
So same मेरा है, सेम मेरी कहानी है कि एज यू यूनिट में आने के बाद भागना दौड़ना स्पोर्ट्स यू कीप इम्प्रूविंग, कभी भी मतलब रुकना नहीं है. तो ये मुझे बहुत, और एक और इंटरेस्टिंग चीज बता दूं सर, जब आप आईएमए से पास आउट हुए थे December 70, अब मुझे पता चला है माय फादर वाज अ इंस्ट्रक्टर सर, ही वाज अ इंस्ट्रक्टर इन वेपन ट्रेनिंग विंग, और मैं वहाँ एफआरआई का जो सेंट्रल स्कूल है आईएमए में वहां पढ़ता था 4th क्लास में सर.
I was in Kohima company, so this was Bravo Battalion, which was slightly
So small world, sir.
right. And for Ganganagar, I'd like to give you a small, there we were deployed before the 71 war, and the war was about to be declared. We knew that it's coming, because of the developments on the Eastern Front. There, we had a brigade commander who said, and we were having this brigade boxing match, and suddenly we get a message saying that boxing in the army, as you are aware, is only for the men.
Jawans.
Officers do not box. But we got a message that no, there will be officers boxing bout, and we want the men to know that the officers can bleed the same way the men can bleed. Right? In preparation for the war. And para brigade, we had half, we used to call Natti senior officers, who would come up there. So this was the brigade commander's fad. So
नाम याद है सर उनका? सर नाम याद है ब्रिगेड कमांडर का?
I think Rosario, if I'm not trying. Right? Okay. So now the message came, but the bout will be between two officers. So me and my roommate, gentleman named Colonel Mann, HPS Mann, again a very famous chap, and left the army. Right, we were picked up. We were not roommates. We were tent mates. We were sharing a founder. Right, okay, there. So when the message came, a lot of pressure started building up that we want to see a good match. We want to see blood. We want to see this. But and we made, like all silly youngsters, we made plan that I'll do a right hook, you'll do a left hook, and how we'll manage.
We will sham it out.
Out or fool the everybody else. And when we went on the boxing, this was about 7:38 in the evening. Ours was the last bout, right there, and we were along the Gang Canal. And generally, boxing takes place in the evening, and it was already getting dark with the lights on. And we find that the brigade major, then Lieutenant General K.M. Seth, or he became the governor in East, right? He was the brigade major, so he became the referee, right? My battery commander was my second. His battery commander was his second. And what do you call it? CO's message comes in, brigade commander's message comes in, 2IC comes in, General Y.K. Kapoor, saying, we want,
fight.
Fight. We want you to fight, and we want to see. Word was blood. We want to see blood on your bloody, this. So anyway, the thing started, and all our seconds did for us was just only pump us with words. Now, second round, go and bloody kill, right? So anyway, as happens, first was a bit of a sparring, and once I managed to get a hit, then I had to hit. And then the whole thing started, and the bout finished, and we, it was a good, we were all cut up inside, we were bleeding, and as the boxing bout finishes, everybody then leaves, and we also decided to leave, and we were complimented, and we decided to leave. But we decided to walk, and our unit was right next to the boxing venue, and it took us about half an hour to reach our unit, but walking. But when we reached there, this is what I want to, bring out, that in the mess, everybody was waiting for us. What was the mess? Mess was the EPIP, 2 EPIP. All right. So the 2IC was standing outside, like nobody had a drink. CO was sitting there. First thing we came in, and he says, well done. And then he says, give them a scotch. Right? Okay, there. So both of us were given scotch, and we said cheers. But when we took the scotch inside, we were all cut up inside, so it was burning like mad. But the honor that the unit gives you when you do some sort of a sacrifice for the unit, or for the this sort of a thing there, that is what I say carried forward, is the mess. Officers' mess is the motivational venue for the young officers to sacrifice their lives. Because that is where they learn and pick up, and they see, the Whaler photographs, and the others have done it. So this is it was etched in my mind throughout my service career, that the cornerstone of everything is the mess. So I have thereafter believed, and I feel that is something we may be going right and left on it there. But this is the incubation, venue where you groom the youngsters and they hear stories, they sing, they see the mark of respect being given, that you then get catapulted to perform what you have to when you are in your own.
वंडरफुल सर।
Right.
अगर मैं शुरू की बातें नहीं करता तो बात रह जाती। तो मुझे भी याद है सर, हमारी यूनिट में भी ये बहुत कल्चर है यंग ऑफिसर्स की ग्रूमिंग का, बट ऑफिसर्स की फाइट वो भी यूनिट के जवानों के सामने, हेड्स ऑफ टू यू सर।
In front of all the brigade.
पूरी ब्रिगेड देख रही है। आई थिंक बहुत बढ़िया रहा। और चोट खाना सर और मारना तो ये तो मतलब फितरत में है फौजियों के। अब सर मुझे बताओ कि आपने सर 71 की वॉर देखी, उसके बाद 99 की वॉर तक आप ब्रिगेड कमांडर बन गए सर। बीच में सर आपने और कहाँ कहाँ, कोई 2-4 जगह जहां आपने, मुझे पता आप एएसएमटी में इंस्ट्रक्टर थे, आप सीनियर कमांड में इंस्ट्रक्टर थे, लोग याद करते हैं आपको, और कोई सिंस आप पैराफील्ड में थे सर, और कोई आपको कोई अपना टेन्योर याद हो वेयर यू हैव सर्व्ड and you remember sir?
I'll quickly cover that. Just before the war was over, we got the message. I mean, not the war over. Before it was starting, I was rushed to do the last para basic course. You see, to become a paratrooper, you have to do 5 jumps, and in Agra, there's a course of about 2 weeks. So we were rushed to do the course, and there were just about 2-3 officers. The establishment had already wound up. It was preparing for, the war. All the people were getting posted out. But somehow we managed to do that course. So we were the last course to be given the para basic training. And we joined then the unit in Ganganagar. And we were then qualified as such there. So that experience in the war was excellent. And then after when we saw action, very innovative action, but basically it was to ward off the Pakistani thrust that was expected in this area of Fazilka, Abhor, Ganganagar, by acting as a deterrence. And we innovated ways of mounting guns and trains and going along the Hindu-Malkot railway line, firing into Pakistan at different places to show that we have so much of artillery deployed.
सर ये मैं आपको सच में बताऊं, ये इलाका सर कुछ जगह कुछ चीजें अभी भी मौजूद थी, बिकॉज मैं सर बीएम था आर्मर्ड ब्रिगेड का गंगानगर में बहुत साल के बाद, और हमारे एक सीनियर ऑफिसर थे सर डिप्टी, जिन्होंने एज ए सेकंड लेफ्टिनेंट वहां कही, तो ही शोड अस कहाँ का इम्प्रोवाइजेशन जो आप बोल रहे हो ना सर, आर्टिलरी की, आर्मर की, और वो अभी भी कुछ चीजें वहां अवेलेबल। आई डोंट नो दोबारा आप गए या नहीं गए देखने के लिए जो आप लोगों ने की होंगी।
And then we had that Karanpur action, that Nagi outpost after the war, where Pakistan had occupied just a knoll in our area, but the message came that 0.5 kilometer cannot be accepted. It's an aberration in our overall gains in the Rajasthan sector. So, post the war, attack was taken by 4 para, and we assisted. And
वो भी मैंने देखा है सर, नागी पोस्ट भी मैंने देखी है। फाजिलका का सर वो बेरी वाला ब्रिज, जहां अपनी 16 कैवलरी 4 जाट, बहुत घमासान लड़ाई हुई सर, वो भी मैंने जगह देखी है। तो उस सेक्टर में यस काफी हैं यादें सर फौज की वहां।
And that is then we de-inducted back in 72, and thereafter I got into more, because the unit atmosphere was such that you had to be performing there. So before I knew it, I was sucked into a mountaineering expedition where again there were some fiascos. One saved each other and all that. So the exposure was good in the unit. And before I knew it, I was sent for 2 courses. One was RSO course, that's signals, and then was ASMT there. And both, touchwood, I managed to top the courses. And before I knew it,
मैं सर ये बीच में चाहूंगा आप थोड़ा हिंदी में भी बोल रहे हैं सर, क्योंकि दोनों टफ कोर्स हैं। मुझे पता है आरएसओ कोर्स भी टफ है, और जो ये एएसएमटी का कोर्स है ना सर, इसमें दोनों में इंस्ट्रक्टर ग्रेडिंग लेना आसान काम नहीं, ये मैं आपको बता दूं सर या लोगों को। सो दैट मीन्स अगर आपने क्यूआई लिया कमांडो कोर्स में, उसके बाद आर्टिलरी वायोस किया, फिर बेसिक पैरा कोर्स किया, और फिर इन दोनों कोर्सेज में इंस्ट्रक्टर ग्रेडिंग लेना बहुत कम लोगों के पास इस टाइप का होगा सर अचीवमेंट।
So frankly, that was the atmosphere in the unit, that if you go outside and you come back with a low grading, somehow you are looked down upon, because the people they were getting into these regiments were, higher up in the merit. So therefore, like I said, it's just the culture you pick up, and once you get the momentum, then it carries on. There.
ये पलटन की वो है सर कि जैसे हमारी पलटन भी सर, जो हम लोग यंग ऑफिसर्स थे, ब्रिगेडियर मान सीओ बन के आए, उन्होंने कल्चर इंस्टॉल किया सर कि कोर्सेज में। तब तक हम लोग बड़े लेड बैक थे, अरे ब्रावो आ गई ठीक है, चार्ली आ गई ठीक है, बट ये जो कल्चर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस है, ये यूनिट है सर जो ऑर्डिनरी ऑफिसर को भी, ऑर्डिनरी जवान को भी एक अलग अलग उस पर पहुंचा देती है।
Absolutely right, sir. And then went to SMT. The highlight in SMT was that we shifted the place from Faizabad to Bangalore. And that is the time one had the pleasure of moving or enjoying the pleasure of Army special trains, because the whole establishment moved on 3 special trains, and we had these MBF2s, के class 6 vehicles parked, and on a running train, your first class coach was next door. Uske upar you used to go and sit down in the MBFU and then have your cup of tea, etc. You know, those are unique experiences which only the army can give you, nobody else can give you.
स्पेशल ट्रेन तो सर एक्सपीरियंस आई कैन इमेजिन। और आप तो फैजाबाद उत्तर प्रदेश से, जब ये तब ये टाइम था जब सेंटर्स मूव कर रहे थे सर नॉर्थ में, और ट्रेनिंग एस्टेब्लिशमेंट, ये भी एक बहुत बड़ा मूव था सर इंडियन आर्मी का। 71 का लेसन लर्न था कि फील्ड फॉर्मेशन आगे जानी चाहिए और रेजिमेंटल सेंटर आगे तो आई थिंक फैजाबाद से आपको बैंगलोर भेजा गया और वहां पे डोगरा सेंटर आया शायद आपकी जगह।
Yes, you're right.
हाँ, डोगरास का सेंटर वहां।
Dogras were already there, but I think they've expanded them.
सर
Right.
तो उसके बाद सर ऐसे till you commanded the unit और कोई ऐसा experience?
Like I said, thereafter it was very quick. After that, I appeared for long gunnery course. I'm not appeared. I was selected for long gunnery. I did the long gunnery course, then got selected as an instructor there. After having got selected as an instructor, there's one thing which was itching me. I had done the parachuting, but I said, "Yeah, ek flyer bhi banna hai," and that was my things when I joined. That I had somebody in the family who had also been a helicopter aeroplane mein the. So I put in my application after being a LGC instructor. That there I was still, age was less. I was below 28, which is the cutoff limit. So my application got thrown out, but along with me were 1 or 2 others. And then some event happened, and we worked very hard for it at Devlali and Yevo. And finally, then again after that, the application I put up. So my commander fielding was General TP Singh. He then could not say no because he had got so much work out of me. So he quietly signed it. And I landed up as a course senior for a aeroplane course, which takes you from Devlali to Bidar to HTS Hyderabad, and back to Devlali. And then I got my first posting to Patiala Aeroplane. And from Patiala Aeroplane, I went into Staff College. Staff College.
ये चीज जो है ना, ये सिंक इन होने दो, क्योंकि ये बहुत रेयर है कि ये पैराशूट ऑफिसर, आर्टिलरी ऑफिसर, QI, ASMT, फिर लॉन्ग गनरी कोर्स जो कि बहुत ही प्रेस्टिजियस है, जो तोपखाने में आते हैं उनको पता है LGSC की क्या वैल्यू है, वहां इंस्ट्रक्टर, एंड देन उसके बाद हेलीकॉप्टर पायलट एरोपी में जाना, and getting through becoming a flyer.
So I got the silver cheetah. That means I topped the
silver cheetah. That इसका तो आपने टॉप किया सर। ये मानना पड़ेगा। नो वंडर कि ब्रिगेडियर देवेंद्र सिंह का इतना नाम है, और जिस तरीके से आपने अपनी ब्रिगेड कमांड की कारगिल वॉर में सर, इसीलिए इतने चर्चे होते हैं। सो दिस इज अमेजिंग सर। फिर आपने फ्लायर बन गए, फिर यू आर फ्लाइंग हेलीकॉप्टर्स।
Yes, so for 4 years flew that. And the culmination was in 84, just before Staff College. 85, we did the Staff College. So we were in Blue Star. That means from Patiala, the flight went into Rajasthansi Airport, just on 6 or 7. So one was again witness to the complete sequence. In fact, one had the privilege of accompanying Madam Indira Gandhi when she came and did the visit there. And a lot of things, standing behind, walking, and then there one, learned a lot of things which help you understand the environment and how it functions.
आपने I will against 71 war. Now you are in 84 Blue Star. आप पायलट हो और आप वहां पर हो जब मिसेस इंदिरा गांधी गई, तो इस पे किसी और दिन बात करेंगे सर। आई कैन इमेजिन द एक्सपीरियंस। उसके बाद
General Brar was the GOC. So one had
General Brar GOC 9 div थे सर। General Brar GOC 9 div थे। हाँ।
So often I had to be available at his headquarters. Waiting for orders, etc. This, that, there. So it was educative. It was educative, right? Okay, there. And then after that, I got posted after staff college to
आपने कौन सा स्टाफ कोर्स किया सर?
41, DSSC 41 in 85.
तो ये भी कमाल की बात है कि इसको डबल बैरल कहते हैं फौज में, कि LGSC भी किया वहां इंस्ट्रक्टर और फिर स्टाफ कॉलेज भी कर लिया आपने. ग्रेट सर, दिस इज अमेजिंग.
Lucky, I mean, the things kept on falling. And then I joined a unit, not my own 9 para field, but another unit, 76 medium in Menla, Sikkim, right? And then we moved the unit to Nasirabad, Jodhpur, to Jodhpur, and became part of the 4 Armored Brigade there. And from there, they gave me a choice. Actually, they posted me to a aeroplane flight locally, and then said that aeroplane flight is moving to Bhuj. So I moved the flight to Bhuj. I was a 2IC, IR pilot, they call it. And the moment I moved, then they gave me a choice that after staff college, you have done no operational stuff, right? And you are now as a 2IC to take over the flight of the flight commander. What do you want? Either you join the aviation or you join the ops channel. Take your pick. So, like I said, flying was never high in the list of professionalism in the Indian Army, right? Because generally they used to say that anybody who become a flyer is having a cushy time, right?
So that बहुत कम थे सर, तब बहुत ही छोटा cadre था, बहुत ही कम थे. हाँ.
So I was told there's no question of that. You head for it. So I landed up as G1 Ops Nagarota, which was at that time the largest corps, starting from DBN to thing there, and I learned a lot there in my 2 years there. I had my Colonel GS as a chap named Arjun Katoch from 1 para, a brilliant officer, but who had his share of problems in Sri Lanka, and he didn't go further, right? So learned a lot. Then I had General Lochan of Sikh, he was the BGS, the 6th Regiment, he was the BGS, General Bhupinder, who became the, governor later on. There. So I was associated with all these people there, and I learned a lot there. And from there, then by the time I became eligible for my CO, and I was given a third chance. They said, sorry, 9 para field you cannot go back to, because it was actually 9 para had got, after the war, 71 war, it had got de-para. So only 17 remained. But the senior officers of 9 para kept on insisting with the hierarchy that 9 should be made para again, because para brigade had become only 1. But enough infantry battalions were doing rotation. They said there should be a second artillery unit also, which continues to do rotation in Agra every 3 years. And 1 year operational, 3 years operational, 3 years there. So 9, the man they approached was General Rodrigues, who then became, he was the vice chief. So Rodrigues had been commissioned into 9, but he was not a paratrooper way back, right? So he said, okay, I will make 9 parachute field regiments. As a parachute regiment, moment I become the chief, talk to me then. Right? So when he became there, everybody then approached him, and he had no choice but to then pass the order, which was a sensible order, because the rotation helps a lot. You get operational experience. Otherwise, sitting in Agra, you lose out on operational experience. So he did that, and in that, somehow the circumstances came that both me and Man were not allowed to head back to. Though he had fought the war with 71, but somebody of Rodrigues' choice had to be made, right? But it was a fair one there, and I got command of 307. I was the 3rd CO. It was the Bofors unit in the northeast.
Okay, so अभी आपने अब कमांड के लिए आप गए बोफोर्स यूनिट में. कौन से साल में कमांड किया सर? Which year was this?
1991 to
1991 में आप CO बन गए. और कहाँ पर थी सर आपकी यूनिट?
It was in the northeast, Rangia, and we went straight into Op Rhino, and somehow the GOC 21 Dev had got a feedback from some colleagues of his in 16 Corps that okay, you're getting a reasonable person. So he told me, he says, your unit will be on remote control into Op Rhino. I'm putting them into columns, and you'll be at my headquarters and become so-called colonel end. and I want to generate options because we want results. Because CI
तो आपको सेकंड कर लिया स्टाफ का काम करने के लिए यूनिट आपकी। सर इसमें एक ही चीज मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूंगा, और क्योंकि ऑडियंस के लिए भी, कि ये वही यूनिट है सर जब आप कारगिल में ब्रिगेड कमांडर थे, अपनी बोफोर्स लेके आए और जिसने बहुत जबरदस्त परफॉर्मेंस दी सर लड़ाई में?
That's right, 307 medium regiment. I was one of the lucky guys who have commanded the unit twice, I'll say. Once as a CO and once as a infantry brigade commander, because that was the Bofors unit was got deployed by chance in Batalik.
चांस की बात है सर। अभी सर मैं आई विल नाउ मूव यू स्ट्रेट सर, क्योंकि एवरीबॉडी वांट्स टू हियर सच यू आर डूइंग एक्सीडिंगली वेल। मतलब जो इस टाइप का सर मैंने बहुत कम अपनी भी सर्विस में
very short gap here that I gave after this CO's tenure. I went to higher command, right? And from higher command, somehow I was sidestepped to senior command because there was some criteria required for being on the to be selected for general cadre, right? And the command was there, and what do you call it? The corps commander, my old corps commander in 4 Corps, General Nicky Kapoor, was tracking me. He had taken over as College of Combat Commander. So he took me as his Colonel GS. Right. So he said, instead of sending him away, why don't you give him this criteria appointment of a senior command instructor? So they gave him, and from that I did about 1.5 years as a senior command instructor. And then I became Colonel GS, College of Combat. And from there, then I 270 Brigade, which was in the Kashmir Valley at that time, which had come down from Leh.
हाँ सर, तो ये भी एक जबरदस्त चीज है सर। कमीशन इनटू आर्टिलरी, पैरा आर्टिलरी, देन एविएशन, स्टाफ कॉलेज, कमांडेड अ बोफोर्स यूनिट, एंड आफ्टर हायर कमांड अभी आपको जनरल कार्डर। तो जिन लोगों को नहीं पता, जनरल कार्डर मींस इट इज ओपन टू इन्फेंट्री, आर्मर, मेक तो होते ही हैं जनरल कार्डर के, बट इट्स ऑल्सो ओपन टू सिग्नल्स, एडी, इंजीनियर्स एंड आर्टिलरी हु कैन गो एंड कमांड एन इन्फेंट्री ब्रिगेड। उसके बाद दे आर ओपन, दे कैन कहीं भी जा सकते हैं। तो सर यू आर वन ऑफ दोज हु वाज, जो बहुत ही कम सेलेक्टेड लोगों को ऑफर किया जाता है। तो आपको जनरल कार्डर ऑफर किया, यू गॉट 70 ब्रिगेड। तो नाउ वी विल टेक ऑन यू वेंट टू कमांड द ब्रिगेड। कब की बात है सर ये?
दिस वाज May 98.
सो May 98 में सर नाउ यू आर ब्रिगेड कमांडर। और कहाँ थी आपके ब्रिगेड?
The brigade was deployed with the responsibility at Wusan, with the responsibility from Gandarbal in J&K, in Srinagar, from Wusan to from Gandarbal to Zujila. So that was the area of responsibility.
तो ये भी सर एक बार मैं ऑडियंस को बता दूं कि गंदरबल जो है, जब आप श्रीनगर से जोजिला की तरफ जाते हो और जहां लेक खत्म होती है, डल लेक, और जहां जो है ना गंदरबल, फारूक अब्दुल्ला की शायद कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी रही है सर, बहुत एक्टिव है, पॉलिटिकली एक्टिव है। तो ये पूरा इलाका जोजिला टनल जहां से कि लद्दाख शुरू होता है, ये आपकी ब्रिगेड का। व्हाट वर द यूनिट्स आपके साथ सर वहां पे?
Sir, I had some very illustrious units: 3 Kamau, 4 9 GR, 1 Naga, right? And they were changing at that time there. So a large number of the 9 Dogra. So these were the units which were with me there. I might be missing out one odd. And we had a share of incidents. And for your information, it was in 1997, my predecessor, the brigade had been brought in there. In Gandarbal, Farooq Abdullah was elected from Gandarbal only, right? And in which brigade played a great role in ensuring the stability of the whole elections.
तो ये आप काउंटर इंसर्जेंसी में डिप्लॉयड हुए सर। ब्रिगेड ये लद्दाख से आई थी, 70 इन्फेंट्री ब्रिगेड, ये लद्दाख है ना सर?
March it had come down.
हाँ, इट हैड कम डाउन। फिर आपको, तो अब सर मैं सीधा एक साल आगे 99 में सर, मई 99 में आपको कब पता चला कि ये कुछ हुआ है, पाकिस्तानी घुस गए अंदर? जस्ट टेक अस थ्रू दैट सर। हाउ डिड यू नो एंड व्हेन डिड यू मूव? आपको क्या ऑर्डर मिले मूव करने के लिए सर?
So apart from the standard activities of counterinsurgency and Amarnath Yatra, etc., which one performed, because that also falls in this belt there. At the end of around October there, the indications were that the firing levels are going up very high in Kargil sector there. So we used to get very little information because generally you are so preoccupied with your own sector and your own commitments in such environments that you hardly have a knowledge of what is going on elsewhere. And but the higher headquarters are aware. And Ladakh sector at that time was also under 15 Corps. There was no 14 Corps.
तो वही मैं बता दूं कि श्रीनगर से ही कोर हेडक्वार्टर था और पूरा का पूरा लद्दाख, पूरा का पूरा जम्मू एंड कश्मीर वहीं से था। तो जो वहां कोर कमांडर बैठते थे उन्हीं के एरिया ऑफ जुरिडिक्शन में था। तो आप तो यहाँ नीचे थे वैली में, सो नेचुरली डिडंट नो मच अबाउट इट सर। तो अगेन अब सर मेरे को जरा कब आपको ऑर्डर्स मिले सर इसके कारगिल में मूव करने के, लड़ाई के कब? व्हाट वर द इंडिकेशंस इन May 99?
So I'll be very candid. What happened was in 70 Brigade's case, like I said, I managed to do a sortie to Leh on my own because that was the parent sector, and I said, let me go and see my, location also, since I got some time and I had the advantage of being a aviation chap, so I could. There was a recce sortie going, and I opted into it. So there, when I went, I got 2-3 hours at the 3-day headquarters and met General Budwar. And I realized they were in a, major problem area because they were finding the whole highway, Kargil burning and all, etc., firing going on. So that is where I got slightly updated on the situation, and that was it. I came back. But then I suddenly got a message just about in the end of beginning of November that the passes are about to close. So situation in Ladakh sector is not good. You have to move back. Okay. So 50 Brigade had come down to the Kashmir Valley for the elections with 2 infantry battalions. So, but they realized that the passes are now, Zujila is the tipping end, closing end. So a large troop movement cannot take place. So they said, you move along with whatever signal company elements I had. And that is all. And I somehow managed to cross Zujila before it closed. And went in, we were fired upon, we did night move, we did this, that. But somehow we reached Kargil and met with 121 Brigade.
So this is very important, sir. This is
end of November 98.
November 98 में आपको ऑर्डर मिला तो आपने अपना ब्रिगेड हेडक्वार्टर और जो भी सिग्नल डेट आपके पास थोड़ा बहुत था सिर्फ ब्रिगेड हेडक्वार्टर लेके आप यू मूव बैक इनटू लद्दाख, जोजिला पास, एंड काफी फायरिंग तब चल रही थी नेशनल हाईवे पे, एंड आप अपने यूनिट वहीं छोड़ दी पीछे अपनी.
Yes, and they said we will send the units up as when the passes open in May next year. Meanwhile, no other option, and move there. So once I reached there, I realized that I had very little, other responsibilities. There were no troops come under my command locally, because whatever troops are there in such sectors, and we have to see that Ladakh sector, the thing was there was an area on priority that is, what do you call it, Siachen.
Siachen to hai hai, sir, one brigade and
the second area in priority was 121 Brigade, where this firing was going on. Right. The rest of Ladakh sector was on a very low priority, including 114 Brigade, others China facing, Reserve Brigade. So in any case, the Reserve Brigade, the choice of having battalions for what? Because they are already being utilized in the contact brigades, right? So really, there was no battalions coming my way there. So I took the opportunity to, as a good Reserve Brigade task, as for offensive tasks, other side. So I did a thorough recce and did the task of a reserve brigade, whether if I have to, restore an intrusion or to, what do you call it, attack across the LC, whatever. Those are standard tasks of a reserve brigade.
So now, 1 minute. So now I'll tell you, this is November 98, October, November, December. Bitterly cold in Ladakh, minus. Dras, Kargil, पूरा लद्दाख फ्रीज हो जाता है. मैंने 2 विंटर स्पेंड किए हैं अभी कुछ साल पहले, तो आई नो हाउ कोल्ड इट इज. और इस दौरान सर आपको क्या कोई अंदेशा था कि पाकिस्तान की कोई प्लानिंग हो रही है या कुछ ऐसा, कोई एंटिसिपेशन था कहीं पर भी कि दिस कुड हैपन, जैसे गर्मी होगी अगले साल कुछ होगा?
See, there were very positive indications from the point of firing that 1907 this thing has started firing across the line of control in the Dras sector, basically, because they can observe certain stretches of the highway. and they used to fire with air defense weapons, like weapons, guns, in a depressed role, which can achieve almost 6 to 7 kilometers, there. And with that, they used to fire, apart from the artillery observation and all that they had. So this nuisance was going on for in 97. It built up to a high crescendo in 98, which I was not aware of it there. And that is why I was, asked to come back, because General Budwar on his own, I think, at some time had started shouting that give me my resources. And it is a resource of 3 days. It had gone on loan to the Kashmir Valley for the elections, but now about time it came back, right? Because my condition is getting there. And whereas in the Kashmir Valley, the situation was stabilizing. 1990, the insurgency started, 89-90. And by 98, it had by and large stabilized.
So 95 तक ना we had broken the back of insurgency. Actually देखो जाओ तो 95 से we broke the back of insurgency कश्मीर में, and वो split भी हो गया था सर, इख्वान मुस्लिमीन और इख्वान को अलग करके lot of them crossed over to Indian Army side. तो मतलब इतनी खराब सिचुएशन नहीं थी वहां पे, बट लद्दाख में मतलब ट्रुप्स विड्रॉ हो रखे थे और इतने बड़े गैप्स थे. एटलीस्ट आई कैन सी नाउ हंड्रेड्स ऑफ किलोमीटर्स में कोई हमारे ट्रुप्स थे नहीं इस सेक्टर में जहां की आप बात कर रहे हो. तो ये कब आपको ये क्योंकि इसके बाद सर आपने वॉर गेम का भी कई जगह जिक्र किया है जहां आप एनिमी कमांडर थे, और वही प्ले हुआ ऑलमोस्ट जो कि 99 में मुशर्रफ और, तो मैं सिर्फ ये जानना चाहता हूं सर, एज FCNA कमांडर, GOC 10 कोर, और मुशर्रफ तब चीफ बनी गया था अक्टूबर-नवंबर 98 आई थिंक ही हैड बिकम चीफ. तो कुछ था अंदेशा सर, ऐसा कुछ हमारी फौज में बातचीत चल रही थी कि पाकिस्तान कैन डू दिस टू टेक रिवेंज सर कुछ?
We have to see the scenario. The scenario was that firing levels were going up, and there were indications that there are about 5,000 people, which reports had come. Since I did the war games, and the core war game was 7th April, in which General Mahendra Puri, as GOC 8 Dev in the Kashmir Valley, was made the Red Land Commander, right? And since I had served with him in the Kashmir Valley, and he had not served in the Ladakh sector, and I had come up in the Ladakh about 5 months ago, that was in April 99. So he said, Devinder, you take on this job of the FCNA commander there, because now you have enough knowledge, and I'll handle the rest of the war game as a commander for the rest of the area. So their presentation finished, and my presentation then started, which was just about 1 hour or 2 hours before lunch on 7th April. And there were enough inputs, like you were saying, the firing levels were very high, that everybody knew. Daily the situation reports go, right? But there were reports that there are 5,000 people in civil clothing across in FCNA.
तो ये एक इनपुट था हमारे पास कि 5,000 लोग जो है सिविल क्लोथिंग में जो है वहां पे गिलगिट बाल्टिस्तान में और स्कार्डू वगैरह में उस इलाके में तैयार है. एक और इनपुट था उस टाइम पे कुछ फॉरेन में कपड़े खरीदने का भी था कुछ पाकिस्तान आर्मी का.
You are right. There were reports that Pakistan has bought in the region of Austria and those countries 5,000 sets of alpine clothing.
तो 5,000 अल्पाइन क्लोथिंग में हाई एल्टीट्यूड क्लोथिंग, एग्जैक्टली जो खबर 84 में हमें पता चली थी और हमने ऑप मेघदूत किया, प्रीएम्प्ट किया था. इस बार कहीं ना कहीं ये हमें मतलब नजरअंदाज होगी या क्या हुआ. तो ये दो इनपुट थे कि ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है वहां पे.
Yes, in fact, Mr. Ajit Dawal, who's our NSA, he was, to the best of my knowledge, though I didn't meet him at that time, he was the IB chief, I think, of J&K at that time. Right? Okay, there. So, so these inputs were there, and the firing levels were showing their own pattern. So when I went into this whole war game area, I realized that something can happen right there. But what can happen? And that is what the war game is all about. Right. So I had also somewhere heard in some news or some this thing broadcast, because there was nothing much in Ladakh, saying that Pakistan may try to retake, as part of the options for the lack in insurgency in the Kashmir Valley, they may try to take certain areas and declare a portion of Indian-held Kashmir as independent. Right? That is their strategy. That's what
ये मतलब देखो ना 71 सरेंडर, उसके बाद 84 सियाचिन ग्लेशियर, मतलब जबरदस्त वी प्रीएम्प्टेड देम, और वो सारी कोशिश करके उन्होंने छोड़ दिया कि यार हम इंडियन आर्मी को यहां से हटा नहीं सकते। मिलिटेंसी फेल हो गई 95 96 में, देख लिया कि मिलिटेंसी से कोई आपको कुछ मिलेगा नहीं। सो ये इट वाज वेरी मच ऑन कार्ड्स की मतलब बदला लेने के लिए ये कुछ ना कुछ करेंगे ये लोग इस एरिया में, कारगिल, द्रास, और यहाँ 65 में भी लड़ाई हुई है सर, 48 में भी लड़ाई हुई है एनी हाइट्स के आसपास, और इनको ये भी शायद अंदेशा था कि इसको कट कर दे तो इंडियन आर्मी का काफी नुकसान कर सकते हैं लोग।
Also, what came to my knowledge was that post the 1984 occupation of Siachen, Pakistan was always keen that this was an area which was accessible to them. That means they could come into Dras as a counter option, or just to take revenge, or whatever it is. You have your few choices and options. Each side has an option what they can do as a counter. There. So this was there, and also it emerged that 28 Div used to be here earlier. Post Siachen, we had put 28 Div here, but that 28 Div had also got sucked into the operations in the counterinsurgency operations in the Kashmir Valley. Right. So by and large, what while presenting the war game, the scenario was that one felt that 15 Corps had been preoccupied, and was rightly maybe so preoccupied with the counterinsurgency mindset. The complete equipping policy was that way. They were hot on priority for all equipments, etc. It was well equipped. Siachen Brigade was the one exception which was well equipped because of its peculiarity. But the rest of the Ladakh sector was really under 15 Corps on a low priority, because really nothing was happening except this firing. But this firing did not change the nature of the equipping, etc. As such. The troop levels still remained low, and with 70 Brigade also gone, the troop levels had further denuded. Probably in this scenario, something can happen, right? Okay, there. Also, there were indications that there have been reports in earlier years that they had come and gone, which always happens because this area is, like I said, got large gaps. Batalik itself, later on, I realized, was about 30 kilometers unoccupied. There was no post there. So, but the thing was that if they come in, they'll have to go back sooner or later. So,
तो ये था कि वो आ जाते हैं आके, लेकिन वापस चले आते हैं। ये अंदाजा नहीं था कि वो वहीं पे रुक जाएंगे, पोस्ट बना लेंगे, बिल्डअप कर लेंगे। This nobody anticipated.
This was not there, but this is the scenario one played up exactly. Almost a similar amount of quantity of troops that came in.
वही मैं पूछा ना, ये आपने अप्रैल में प्ले किया वॉर गेम में, कोर के वॉर गेम में, एज एनिमी कमांडर आपने अपना माइंड यूज किया और आपने प्ले किया।
Yeah, but there was a counter view also. Always there's a counter view and alternate view there, where the corps commander felt that no, they will combine this input of 5,000 people in civilian clothes and alpine clothing. That since he has, the rest of the line of control along the J&K area is so well now taken care of, that he will try and push these people with alpine clothing through the Ladakh sector, get into the Padam Valley, and then infiltrate them into the Srinagar Valley, a route where hardly any troop levels are there.
अच्छा, तो इसकी anticipation ये हुई कि this will probably be another route for infiltrating the insurgents या terrorists या jihadis के लिए.
Absolutely, because like I said, after having maybe rightly from their point of view, that they had been involved in insurgency, word is that everything was colored in
totally
right. So they felt this happen. I played up a different scenario, saying that they will come in and stay. In fact, I put up to the corps commander for 2 more extra battalions so that I can interdict the national highway as a Redland commander. But the war game is controlled by the corps commander himself, right? Which he denied, and rightly so. He says, I've got enough surveillance elements within FCNA, whereby over the passes, if any additional troops come, I'll get indications. But what was not probably factored in was the Northern Light Infantry, which was already there within FCNA, and which could then relieve the holding battalions on the line of control in Ladakh, and they can be used for attack, right? Okay. So all this was there, and finally at the end, when we are discussing, so he asked me, he says, how long will you, what will you be able to do if I don't give you these 2 battalions? I said, I'll then interdict the national highway. I will not allow any civilian movement because he said, Fauji movement I'll manage. I'll suppress with arty fire. I'll move at night. I've got the Manali-Upchi highway. At that time it was opening up there. I've got some reserve stocks of last year. So I'll be able to look after my, militarily I'll be okay. I'll take care. We said, fine, sir. I mean, my job is to put up a presentation there. And then I said, as far as the civilian is concerned, he said, who do you think I am? So I said, you're the corps commander. So I'm a military man. Let me, this is a war game, military war game. So let's restrict ourselves to that. Those things will be taken care of separately. Right. And that is where he also asked me one question. How long will you be able to stay here? So I said, I'll be able to stay here till winters, because such as the quantity of troop level which I have now shown across the line of control from Pakistan side cannot be sustained logistically in winters. So only one or two elements will remain, but the rest will have to be pulled back. So he said, then where is the worry? They'll go back, there, and I'll be able to hold them out and my summers will pass. Right? Or if I want, I'll take some counter action depending on the situation. So that is where the war game finished there. And he said, gentlemen, let's go for lunch. Any comments? He asked the General Khanna, who was sitting as the army commander. He said, no comments. And the war game got over. But this was 7th April. 17th April, a development happened, which everybody needs to draw their own lessons there, whether it had impact or not, is that the government in power, that means Bajpayee's government, became a caretaker government, but it lost by 1 vote in the parliament.
I remember वो एक वोट से वाजपेयी जी की सरकार जो है गिर गई, became a caretaker government. 17th April 99.
It did not affect us. हम तो अपना काम कर रहे हैं militarily, so frankly,
कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. हाँ, बिल्कुल.
But the implication was that the elections were then due by September, October. Right? But this was not our concern. At our level, it didn't matter. But like I said, in the overall perspective, this event also happened. And then, moment this war game was over, I kept on insisting that I have not, role. War games and all are over now. There, I need a role. So they said, you take over the management of the national highway, which is passing late. I said, that's hardly a job there, but notwithstanding, I'll make out a plan for it. And I went to Srinagar, sat down with the Brigade, Andy Bhagat, no more, right? Did this thing. And I was there on 7th of May, back in Dras. And we are, doing the final stitches to it. And meanwhile, I put up that, give me some operational role, right? So they said, okay, fine. You take over Dras and Mashko from Brigadier Surinder 1-to-1. We'll divide it. You take over Dras and Mashko. And Kaksar, Kargil and Batalik and Chorpatra will remain with him. So I said, okay. But I said, you have to give me troops. That they said, we'll do it. But that was easier said than done because there were no troops. Troops were supposed to come from the valley. The valley passes would not have opened till May, right there, as such. So, or May end there. So it was if and but. When the troops come, then you'll get this thing there. So first they fixed the date as 1st of May. Then they revised it to 10th of May. Then they said subject to the troops coming up from the Kashmir Valley. Those 2 battalions which had left, they come up and you'll get them. Apart from the local battalion, which is there in Dras sector, Grenadiers was the battalion. Vishisht Seva was the CO. Right, okay. So meanwhile, they gave me some troops for the highway management battery of, 15 field, 1 Ladakh Scout company, etc. for the national highway because IDs were taking place, etc. whatnot and what. So with this, we are together on 7th in Dras, 7th May, when a message comes and Surinder conveys the message saying that intrusions were detected in Batalik on 3rd of May. They've just been confirmed because I sent patrols, that means Surinder had sent patrols as the holding brigade commander to from various battalions, including Dras sector.
So this you're talking of the patrol of 4 jats, sir?
The patrol of Grenadiers, this is the patrol of 3 Punjab, this is a patrol, there are 3 jats also. 3 or 4 patrols were sent by Surinder. I am not fully aware of the details.
ये आपको पता चलेगा 7 मई को.
7 मई को, but 3 मई को और 3 और 7 के बीच में ये एक्शन हो चुका था.
ये पता लग गया कि तब कि भाई पाकिस्तानीज आ गए अंदर एंड इंट्रूजन्स हैं अंदर.
This was only in Batalik. They knew the information so far.
क्योंकि हाँ, सबसे पहले तो सर बटालिक में ही पता चला कि भाई ऐसे ऐसे ऊपर लोग बैठे हुए हैं, पाकिस्तानी आए हुए.
And by 7th May, these patrols had been ambushed. Right? Third, nobody took it seriously, but on 7th May, they had been ambushed there. So, Budwar also came on the line, and through Surinder, he conveyed to me that meet me tomorrow morning 8:30 at Surinder's headquarters in Kargil. I was nearby Dras, so next morning we met. And then he says, now Batalik intrusion has occurred. We need to deal with it. So there are 2 methods. I mean, he says, so how do we do it there? So I said that though I am supposed to take over Dras and Mashko, but then Brigadier Surinder is well entrenched as the holding brigade commander with lines of communications, knowledge, etc. system. He's worked with the battalion as a holding brigade commander. So let him retain the whole area. And typical of a reserve brigade, if there's an intrusion, I'm supposed to evict it. So you give me a Batalik sector, right? But I don't have troops. He said that will follow. So that was agreed. And I was told to move from there only after he left at 10 o'clock. I took my jeep. There was another 1 ton with it. And I took it and moved to Batalik, where 1-to-1 brigade, 3 battalion was there, 3 Punjab. Colonel Bakshi was there, right, as the CO, and went over to him to take administrative support before my own elements or troops are released to me. I had no troops. My own.
अभी सर मुझे ये बताओ अभी तक सर कि ये कोई एप्रिसिएशन था कि ये कितने 100 किलोमीटर में है, कितनी डेप्थ में है, कितने पाकिस्तानी आए हुए हैं, रेगुलर हैं, जिहादी हैं, मिक्स हैं, ये कब आइडिया आया सर? ये मतलब शुरू की, बिकॉज अभी भी काफी कंफ्यूजन है. 24 साल हो गए इस लड़ाई को और अभी भी काफी कंफ्यूजन है कि क्यों नहीं पता चला तो इतना लेट क्यों पता चला. व्हाट अबाउट द सर्वेलेंस, व्हाट अबाउट एआरओपी, आप खुद एआरओपी के हो, तो इसके बारे में इफ यू कैन, especially for students of military history, because this battle needs to be studied more greater in detail, sir.
This is a gray area which needs to be examined in greater detail. Like I said, mine was only based. I was told that Batalik intrusion has taken place. There are people in black salwar kameez, right? They have fired, but with obviously with serious weapons. And like I said, this Batalik was a sector where there's no communications. There's a company, General Panapan, while as army commander, had endorsed in one of his volumes the previous year that a company must be maintained at Jaldor, right? Probably, like I said, there were inputs earlier also, and
ये कुछ हो सकता है.
So there, but somehow that company, under whose orders, core orders, or this thing, Dev order, that company was not there. That was
ये क्या बजरंग पोस्ट की बात कर रहे हैं सर?
नहीं, Jaldor
में. अच्छा, okay.
Jaldor is in depth in Batalik sector. It's not that it's ahead of the highway, but it is there, Kukartang ke paas hai, right? Because then it can keep this whole area under
some surveillance, at least कुछ reach तो रहेगा,
patrols, etc. there. But now what was interesting was there were troops in Batalik itself, and then there were troops in Chor-Patla. There's a huge gap, over 40 kilometers there, etc. And there are huge ridge lines there, Jubbar, Kukartang, Khalubar, 5203, etc. There are huge ridge lines in between, and that area was totally void. Patrols should have gone, Vaso sorties. We'll come to that portion, the winter ASL sorties. But that was the issue. And this, if you notice that this was detected by a shepherd, right, who reported that there are some people like this belonging to the Dha village. Dha and Dharchik are the villages which are traditionally known to be the pure Aryan race villages. You know, just for information, right? Okay, there.
Tashi Namgyal, आप तो मिले भी होंगे.
Yeah.
He's the one who savior, I can say.
You are right. He was the chap who initially reported. So, like I said, one was really not part of this details, because this is generally a holding brigades work. I was a reserve.
So sir, now we will take it forward. We will not deliberate on this. आप अभी आपको टास्क मिल गया और आप आगे मूव कर गए सर. अब मेरे को ना सर ऑडियंस को इन अ वेरी सिंपल वे इफ यू कैन एक्सप्लेन कब कब कौन कौन सी यूनिट मिली और कब आपने जो ये मेजर लड़ाइयां जो लड़ी सर, क्योंकि आपके ब्रिगेड ने, आपकी कमांड में सर 70 ब्रिगेड ने बहुत जबरदस्त काम किया. वहां कोई टीवी क्रू नहीं पहुंचा, लेकिन सबसे मुश्किल, सबसे दुर्गम, मतलब नाइफ एज है वहां पे. मैं खुद कई बार गया हूं सर वहां, चोरबाटला तक तो पैदल भी गया हूं 2007 में देखने के लिए, जब मैं सीओ था लद्दाख में. तो ये बहुत जबरदस्त है सर. नाउ वी विल लीव अदर थिंग. जस्ट टेल अस सर, आपको कब यूनिट्स मिली और कैसे आपने सर आपकी आपकी लीडरशिप में इन यूनिटों ने, इन बहादुर जवानों ने, इन ऑफिसर्स ने कैसे ये शुरू किया ऑपरेशन सर?
So the thing is, one as a skeleton headquarter, I landed up in 3 Punjab, and next day got whatever little briefing from him on Batalik sector and what are the patrols. The information he gave me was, he was also waiting for the information. He had not been able to recover those patrols yet. He was getting scanty information. The problem is that there are huge ridge lines there, and VHF sets do not work. Screen
वीडियो सेट काम नहीं करते बिल्कुल.
right, and HF sets are not there.
पेट्रोल जैसे सौरभ कालिया की पेट्रोल भी सर, कोई फिर दूसरी पेट्रोल भेजी मुझे पता है उसको रिकवर करने के लिए, फाइटिंग पेट्रोल. उसके साथ जब कांटेक्ट हुआ तब जाके अंदेशा हुआ कि ये काफी लोग हैं, बिकॉज कम्युनिकेशन ही नहीं कर पाए.
Correct. So there was no communication as such. They had laid some sort of a landline there, but that often gets broken in the snow. It has to be patched up and then taken on fair. So, like I said, these 4 patrols had gone in. They hadn't gone in independently, and they were not from this area. Only one was from 3 Punjab. The balance of patrols were from the other battalion sectors. They didn't know this area, right? So they went in, and the information was sketchy. So, but meanwhile, I said that is their recovery was, going on. Meanwhile, I was told that you recover, the moment you get some troops, then only I can contribute towards recovery. Otherwise, I can't physically myself as a Superman and recover, this thing. So, meanwhile, I managed to get 1 or 2 hepto sorties, and I did the recce of the sector. That what it is, I'd seen it earlier, but never with the aim of occupying it as a defender or as a victor. So, right, so did that recce, and from there you can't make out where an encounter has taken place. You can't make out anything because you can't go very near because firing will come. So one did the sortie, came back. Moment I landed on, this is on the 9th of May, I landed at back at Batalik. The helicopter just dropped me and flew off. Suddenly somebody, 2 people rushed towards me and got my hands up into the bunker. I said, what's happening? Tell us, sir, we are under shelling. And there was a single 130mm gun with a Pakistani OP sitting somewhere who had infiltrated. And he was lampasting the 3 Punjab headquarters. When I entered the
3 Punjab का headquarter है जहां आप लैंड करे थे, पाकिस्तानी ओपी ऑब्जर्वेशन पोस्ट में गनर ने, ऑफिसर ने देख के वहां पे एक्यूरेट फायर, और आप वहां पर थे उस टाइम पे.
Yes. Now, what do you call it? Moment I landed, it was not me. I landed, they took me into a bunker, a huge bunker. Efficacy, I don't know, directed, it would have never survived. There were about 40 people there, including families, right? Because this was now 8th or 10th of May, families had started joining up. As normal happens in a normal any hill station or any sector, families were coming up, right? Okay, chutiyan ho rahi hain bachon ki, they were coming up, right? So there. So that firing then, it was a kind of a unnervy this thing, because you're feeling helpless, for you can't contribute anything. The firing kept on. Luckily for us, they had a flat trajectory artillery weapon. That means he was having difficulty in somehow hitting any area, but the round was going up and down based on his ballistics, right there. So, but at 6 o'clock, the light started fading and the firing stopped. And then, when the whole scenario was accessed, their quartermaster store was in flame. There are other few things were in flames there. The CO did some very quick actions, since one was not to interfere because that was a battalion of another brigade there. He did some very quick actions. Firstly, got all the families together, put a JCO in charge, and said, move to Leh, and the first flight put them back to Delhi and they'll manage on their own. All right. Second they did was battalion headquarters move. That is the time we consulted with the gunner knowledge there. I'll come to this point later. One had an advantage that one was a gunner, one was a aviator, one was a paratrooper, right? And plus थोड़े से instructional appointments कर ली थी, तो थोड़ा सा mix of knowledge था. Plus one knew a lot of people because of senior command, college of combat, वो कर.
तो जितने जो COs स्टाफ में थे वो आपके स्टूडेंट्स रहे होंगे वहाँ सीनियर कमांड में.
So the gelling was quick, there that helped because most of the time you'll realize that later on, between the period one started and the war got over, 26th July officially, but 9th July Batalik was over, there was hardly a period, it was only 2 months. And in 2 months, you got the first level that you got, and the first level went away. And yes, there were some people I met only after their rest, it was all on telephone or radio set. So this was important, but all these factors. So I kind of managed to advise them that where best to get in. So we picked up a re-entrant right next nearby, where the whole battalion headquarters got tucked in. So they were safe from artillery fire, unless they do airburst. But the rest we are safe. Right? Okay. And I also moved in there with them. 2 days later, Colonel Bhaduria of 10 Para lands up on an independent task by the Corps, that is a strategic level task, saying that I am to induct through China Nala, which is there, and I'm supposed to go up to where the Pakistanis are crossing the LOC into Batalik sector, right? I'm supposed to throttle that. Right? A very good mission there. Anyway, so we rendered assistance, and like I said, had the advantage, Paranet also, this net also. So we spoke, we debriefed whatever assistance could be given, and he went up. So it was not an operation under 70 Brigade, but it was an operation under there, but assisted whatever we could.
mission mein? How many people were there?
I think there were 2 teams. There were 2 teams, right, there. And they managed to reach up quite a lot. Where something went wrong was that early in the morning the next day, they saw people further up, maybe another 1 day's or half a day's trek up, early in the morning at about 7 o'clock. Now, people in rural people wake up early in the morning in plains, but rural people in mountainous areas generally wake up late, right? Because of they will electricity jilani padti, wo nahi karna padta. So they wake up according to that, heating nahi karni padti. So
बड़ी देर के बाद मतलब लाइट होती है.
उनका काम शुरू होता है. So this was around, I think, 5:36. So some chap probably going to the toilet or something. He was seen, and somewhere in their wisdom, they took on a rocket launcher and fired upon him. Now, whether that was a good action or a bad action, that set the alarm bells rolling over the whole place. And thereafter, 10 Para could not make further progress because, like I said, they were at a lower place yet. Somewhere that action should not have happened. They should have somehow kept quiet, reached on an equal level somewhere, and then taken on the engagement. But that engagement in the exuberance, etc., thinking, ek do bande hain, hum uda denge. Like I said, the CI mindset did prevail after the battalion had come from.
तब तक सर यही अंदेशा था. अब आप सब तो वहीं पे थे कि ये ऐसे ही जिहादी हैं, कुछ दिन में इनको भगा देंगे या ये भाग जाएंगे. Was that the perception? अभी तक अभी हम 10-11 मई की बात कर रहे
हैं. Bhaduria के साथ what do you call it? There was this intimate conversation has not taken place. That what prompted them? Was it himself or his company commander, team commander, who took the decision? But really, you are right that overall, the initial dealing with the enemy was based on the concept, at least at the higher headquarters, there on a counterinsurgency mindset. That means, the moment you detect a militant, you just round up. Thereafter, that chap has got no chance, right? You are free to do what you want. But in a conventional war, you can't do that. Because
नॉट विद रेगुलर सोल्जर्स एंट्रेस्ड मोर्चे बना के बैठे उनके साथ नहीं आप कर सकते.
Yeah, he's got equal capability, you know. So he won't allow you to move. I mean, to encircle him. All those things are relevant. Whereas that's not so the case. At least in counterinsurgency, where outer cordon and all can be, you know,
ये 10 पैरा का एक्शन था सर, जो कि अगेन then they came back.
They returned back, but a team then became available to me under the CO. It remained with me later. It came to me, but they were then pulled out. So of this operation. So this also happened. Meanwhile, on 9th of May, I was informed that 2 battalions are being released to you, 111 GR and 12 Jackalai. So I said, where are they? They said they have reached Leh. So fine. Then on 11th May,
ये दोनों यूनिट कहाँ से आई सर? ये वैली से आ रही थी?
I'll come to that. So in 111 first, led by then Barsati Major, as they call it in there, Major Saab there, but actually Lieutenant Manoj Pandey, God bless his soul, very critical.
वो मनोज पांडे ऐसे यंग कैप्टन, बरसाती कैप्टन, लेफ्टिनेंट आपके पास पहुंचे एडवांस पार्टी लेके 111 GR की.
111 GR. So I asked him, I said, where's the CO? He said, the CO has put in his papers and like good soldier, he completed the Siachen tenure, but he was due, so he's off to USA. Gone. All right. I said, where's your 2IC? 2IC is also going to leave, because what happens after Siachen is that a major leave party goes to Nepal and wherever they are. And
Siachen के बाद at least 1/3 तो unit चली आती है छुट्टी से.
1/3 goes on what do you call it, advance party. So he says, sir, I've got 299 troops. I've got no clothing. I've got no equipment. I've got nothing, because we are about to catch the flight to Delhi. When we are at yellow trucks, and now you move to Batalik. Right? So I said, yeah. So I said, you induct along the Yardor Nala, and there's enemy at Kokarthan. Right? Get in, establish contact with them and fan out as much as you can. I'll be there with you in a day or two to take the assessment of the situation, and further orders will follow. Because I also don't have very much of information, because after all, this was 11th May. I had taken on the brigade. I had no resources to get. There's no way you can get information in the remote areas there without probing, etc. There. So that is what happened. There, his CO immediately, and Astana was in Delhi. So he also got the flight back by, I think, 13th May. He was also back. Now, here an incident happens, which has come up in the media lately. An article has also come out there that we receive orders that 17th May, 111 GR will attack on Kokarthan. Right? The contact point in Batalik, unlike Dras and Mashko, is firstly you can't see the area because you are compartmentalized into various subsectors. Second is that the fighting was about 2 days ahead of the roadhead.
हाँ सर, ये मैं ये लोगों को दोबारा बता दूं कि जो कारगिल के नाम से लड़ाई जानी जाती है, लड़ाई द्रास में काफी लड़ाई लड़ी है, जहां द्रास वॉर मेमोरियल है, वहां तोलोलेंग, टाइगर हिल, ये काफी फीचर नजर आते हैं. वहीं से बेस से ही आर्टिलरी सपोर्ट है. और मतलब यू कैन सी यहाँ जो ब्रिगेडियर देवेंद्र बता रहे हैं, ये बता रहे हैं कि जहां आप असेंबल हो रहे हो, जहां वहां से 2 दिन के वॉक के बाद कहीं जाके आपका दुश्मन के साथ कांटेक्ट होगा. Exactly, sir.
Exactly true. And the part of this is, as a soldier, you'll understand that has got its own connotations, because you are setting up then your contact points with the enemy there. But every small pin, down to a pin, to a mortar round, to your water, to your ration, to your this thing, everything has to be carried on man-pack basis from the road to this point.
Exactly. हम लोग सोचते हैं सर लड़ाई मीन्स वहां पे बस एक अलग, क्योंकि पिक्चरें देख के या लोगों के यूट्यूब देख के ना सोचते हैं लड़ाई ऐसे हो जाती है आपस में. बट एक्चुअली में जैसे आपने बताया, एक अगर 7.62 mm की गोली भी जानी है और एक 81 mm मोटर का बम जाना है, 84 mm RL का बम जाना है, खाना जाना है, कपड़े जाने हैं, फर्स्ट एड जानी है, जख्मी हो रखा है कोई, और सिग्नल कम्युनिकेशन है, ये सारी की सारी चीजें या तो मैन पैक जाएंगी या खच्चर पे जाएंगी, और 2 दिन का कम से कम वॉकिंग डिस्टेंस है। कहने के मतलब क्या है, एक लॉजिस्टिक्स चेन बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, और उनका रोल भी नहीं तो आप सरवाइव ही नहीं कर पाओगे वहां ज्यादा देर।
So now you can imagine it's a unoccupied sector. To establish a logistic chain, to establish, get ponies, to get all this requires time. It cannot happen overnight. Because nothing available in the area. It's a barren, mountainous area. So therefore, the only people you can use is your own soldiers as fighting porters. Moment you use your own soldiers as fighting porters, first of all, their whole this thing.
सोल्जर ही कितने कम है, 111 या 299 के साथ जो है ऑफिसर हैज रीच टू यू, बाकी छुट्टी चले गए हैं। और ये 11 तारीख, ये 12-13 तारीख होगी, अभी सीओ 13 तारीख को आ गए हैं ये वो। अब दूसरी यूनिट कब आई आपके पास सर?
दूसरी 12 July. Luckily, their CEO was in command, Balotia, excellent, old-fashioned officer there. So they also came with the same strength, same problem. Advance party gone, lead party gone. From the airport, Leh airport, they were directed. But they had two distinct advantages over 111, that there were a large number of people were locals. Locals means in the sense that they were from J&K, right? But they were
but बहुत कम लद्दाख के हैं सर उसके अंदर।
लद्दाख वाले लद्दाख स्काउट्स में थे।
हाँ, वही तो कह रहा हूँ। ये भी मैं बता दूं कि J&K लाइट इन्फेंट्री में आपको जम्मू, डोडा, किश्तवाड़, पुंछ, राजौरी, श्रीनगर और नॉर्थ साउथ कश्मीर, यहाँ के सोल्जर मिलेंगे, और इक्वल मात्रा में मिलेंगे, मुस्लिम्स, डोगरास एंड सिख्स।
Absolutely right there. So these people came in, but like I said, because their troops were in the local vicinity, they're getting back to their full strength level.
ली पार्टी एटलीस्ट कश्मीर के मतलब 1-2 दिन में पहुंच सकते हैं आसानी से।
They may I'm saying week, 10 days, but that is the time frame in which they were ready. 111 GR would have taken about a month because Nepal
पहुंच गए तो।
Correct. So that was the reality there. So anyway, we are going on to this. This is the 2nd Battalion that was then put in contact with point 4812. Right there, on slightly on the right of Kokarthan, the next point along the Yaldor Nala only. Right. So the moment they came in, I said same orders. There, keep in contact till they're there. Then we'll see further as the information you give. Then we'll work out the plan. Right. Okay. There. Now this 17th May attack orders came. So on 15th May, I took a stock of the situation. I said, so Amol Usthana told me, sir, I've got about.
Amol Usthana is Colonel Amol Usthana was CO 111 GR that time.
He was Lieutenant Colonel officiating CO.
Lieutenant Colonel officiating CO 111 GR.
Yeah, right. There because CO had put in his papers, there was no CO posted in. All right.
अच्छा, CO थे नहीं, CO हाँ रिटायरमेंट के लिए उन्होंने अपने पेपर। सर एक चीज बताओ मुझे, ये 8 तारीख से लेके 15 तारीख होगी, 1 हफ्ता हो गया है। तो इस टाइम पे आप बताओ, एज ब्रिगेड कमांडर आपको कितना सोने का टाइम मिला? मतलब ये कैसे मैनेज कर रहे थे सर आपकी लड़ाई? अब तो अंदेशा हो ही गया कि यार लड़ाई शुरू होने वाली है, थिंग्स आर बिकमिंग क्लियर डे बाय डे। ऊपर से कोर हेडक्वार्टर आपका वहां बैठा है श्रीनगर में, जीओसी आपके बैठे हैं लेह में जल बुधवार। तो कैसे, हाउ आर यू मैनेजिंग सर एज अ पर्सन? ये मैं आपसे जानना चाहता हूँ।
There was no really information in Dha, which is the base which I picked up as my brigade headquarter location. But there was information at Batalik with 3 Punjab. Now, for about 3 to 4 days, I had no option but to be with 3 Punjab, because otherwise I was not getting any communication, because communications, my own resources were very limited, and the higher headquarter has come down and establish contact with you. That was not yet happening there. So one had to remain in contact with the rear as well as the front. So these 3-4 days I also utilized that Pakistanis were playing a very good ploy. They were putting out tapes. Probably they had taken these Mujahideen tapes during the old American Russian infiltration there, in all languages, Balti, Pushto, this, that, and fire karo, ye karo, as if really action upon action is taking place. On the ground, we had no information whether any actions are taking place because these ambush patrols.
सर ये क्लियर हो गया था कि ये एनएलआई और पाकिस्तान आर्मी और ये मुशर्रफ का प्लान है, या यही लग रहा था कि ये ज्यादा है?
the thing is, the confusion prevailed till about this 17th, 18th tak. Why? Because even at our level, our direct contact with the enemy was limited. Our direct contact with the enemy was limited. It's only when we established our own battalions, established the direct contact with the enemy, then we could say for certain that it is not the scenario. So we are believing that these are jihadis or there. Now we got hold of a Molvi from one there. This is the belt of Shia Muslims.
Shia Muslim
right? Okay, in that area, right? So एक को किया, he knew Pushto, the other chap knew Farsi, the third chap. So we are trying to analyze this. साले बोल क्या रहे हैं in those tapes? Now those tapes were doctored tapes, and we were blaring them all out over the radio set, trying to give an impression that actions are taking place. वो तो fire, वहाँ से fire, ये करो. हम कह रहे हैं साला action तो कुछ हो नहीं रहा. So after the fort, I realized that this is a fraud. They are trying to fool us because on the ground the firing is not taking place, right? But it is depicting that if there is firing going on and this and that, and they are playing these tapes. So thereafter, then we made up a decision to disregard. And this IB detachments and others who were there, उन सबका मदद लिया. Luckily, 3 Punjab was well versed. They had been deployed as a holding battalion there, so they managed to help out, and we made up.
ये confusion रहा, sir. अभी आप take me straight to your major fights that took place. फिर One Bihar आई, sir. One Bihar कब आई आपके पास?
One Bihar came later on, around the end of May. Around the end of May. So now I'll come to the point. So these two battalions came in pieces. I also got, like I said, the Ladakh sector was a neglected sector. I got some independent companies of Ladakh Scouts. Very good.
Sonam Wangchuk was leading one of those companies.
He came and he did an independent action in Chorbatla. Right? That was slightly detached from the rest of the sector. But there, it did a very good job there. He came independent and did there. So what one wants to say is that the moment you used to get a company, one had to take care of 4 compartmentalized subsectors. I used to send that troop level there along that Nala for 2 days up. But the next day or after 2 days, I will release some other traditional troops. Now you have to readjust because you have to equate the strength and all that. So the problem was that full capable or fully there battalions did not become available. First Bihar was in fact the first battalion. I'll come to that later. Other battalions that came were in bits and pieces, right? Like in the 111 GR, 12 Jackalai, the Ladakh Scout companies, etc. So and they were not fit to fight. So there was a problem of readjusting. So what one
adjustment, cohesion, they don't know you, आपकी brigade में नहीं है और एक दूसरे को भी नहीं जानते हैं. So it was क्या कहते हैं, induction by fire. मतलब सब चीजें सीख रहे हैं और हो रहा है, बस मतलब action हो रहा है.
So what we did was, which was lucky we did that, but it got misinterpreted in MO Directorate there, that I realized that this required every compartment or every compartmentalized valley required a separate control headquarters, and it required a control headquarters ahead, and it required a logistic officer at the base. Right? There were 2 reasons for it. So therefore, what I did was, since these troops were moving, kabhi ek company aa gayi, chalegi, and I did not know the caliber of the, not caliber, I'll say the, capability of the company commander, etc. there. But so I sent my brigade BM in one sector, Nala. I sent my deputy commander Vinu Thomas there, and Indrapalan was the BM there. The DQ was the only one at Dha who remained in control of the situation.
So DQ एक जगह पे DQ का है जो लॉजिस्टिक्स हैंडल करता है, और 3 कंपार्टमेंट में, एक में डिप्टी कमांडर, एक में ब्रिगेड मेजर और एक में आप. एक में आप.
Yeah. So this is how we managed to control these sectors there, because
ये कोई सिखाता नहीं है कि ब्रिगेड हेडक्वार्टर कैन बी स्प्लिट इनटू 4 पार्ट्स.
करेक्ट.
आप खुद इंस्ट्रक्टर रहे हो, मैं भी स्टाफ कॉलेज में इंस्ट्रक्टर रहा हूं. ये कोई प्लान बनाएगा तो उसको वहीं फेल कर देंगे. यार ये तुम क्या प्लान?
No, MO said this chap doesn't know what he's doing. Right? Okay. Those are comments I got later. Right? But the fact is that there was, and plus I picked up through the DQ, picked up one logistic officer, one from the signals, one from the ASC, जिनको की उसका logistic base along each this thing. Now the reason for this was that moment this company was told to establish contact with the enemy there and do some probing action, he said मेरे पास ये नहीं है, मेरे पास वो नहीं है, मेरे पास वो नहीं है. ना उसके साथ एक और कंपनी थी, उसको मैं बोलूँ सामान दे दे. You know the Indian Army system. Nobody will give their equipment and share this thing very well. So it required a designated deputy commander or a VM or me standing with a kind of a gun in hand, saying that बेटे ये तू नंगा हो जा and मैं इसको दे दे. जब ये करके आएगा फिर वो तेरे एक्शन के लिए उसको तेरे को दिला देंगे, right? And then we'll equalize later. Right, but that is very required, and therefore this is how we managed to cope with the situation. Actually, from the outset, and what it emerged later with the quantum of Pakistani troops which were there regular, this was a divisional task. Because then you would.
अभी सर लोग ना इतनी डिटेल में समझ नहीं पाएंगे क्या हुआ. अब मेरे को दोबारा बताओ कि आपके पास कौन कौन सी यूनिट थे और आपकी क्या एंटिसिपेशन थे, कितने पाकिस्तानी सोल्जर सर अभी आपके सेक्टर में थे और कितना आपका सेक्टर का लेंथ और ब्रेथ था सर. जस्ट बेसिक अगर आप बता उसको मोटे तौर पे कितनी हाँ डिस्टेंस में पाकिस्तानी थे, कितने पाकिस्तानी होंगे सर इसमें?
I'll give you the exact situation that came out. Since we are going in by a time wise, we have now reached a stage where we are 17th, 18th May. So, like I said, that attack of 111 GR was supposed to go in, right? And I did my own assessment and asked these people. According to Astana, there was not even a 1% chance of success, right? According to Manoj Pandey, 0.5% success. But they never said they will not attack. They said they'll attack like good spirit of any Indian army. But this says, हमारे पास कुछ है नहीं है. He says, sir, I've got one mortar and I've got 3 rounds. Artillery is not yet built up, in area, right? And it's a kind of a ice face. We are just 800 meters. We'll be moonlight है. इस जो 90 बंदे मैं deploy करूँगा, उनमें से attack के अंदर about 30-40 before you tell me, then attack call off हो जाएगा. Right? Okay, there. I said this is not going to make sense. What for? Right? If there are results, we go ahead do it. If there are no results, then why waste casualties? So I raised the matter up to the div commander. I used to talk to him 3 times a day, 4 times a day, especially evening and night. So, there were apprehensions. The attack had been planned at the highest level. Nobody wanted to say no. Meanwhile, Brigadier Singh had been removed from command. Right there were the div commander had his own problem because he was also the holding div commander. I was on a slight high that I'm a reserve brigade commander who's come up. I don't have the holding blame game on me. Right? So this thing kept on going on, and 12 o'clock that night on 17th, meanwhile the army commander rings up on the Gurkha channel, somehow got patched up to the Sana 111 GR, Gurkha battalion attacking Yevo. So he said, then he told me, the army commander rang up. I said, I hope you posed them your problems. So he says, sir, my first time army commander talking. मैं ऐसे तो बोला नहीं गया, but anyway he cut off the line. Line got cut immediately. I said, well done. Like, so now the baby was there that this was the situation. So finally, I asked again. I said, sir, this attack needs to be called off. I was told, sorry, it can't be called off. Right? And then at 11:45 or 50, I told my brigade major Balan, I said, send a log to the day that attack called off on the orders of the brigade commander. Right? Okay. And then next day, all hell broke loose. And the GOC was there. And he directly interviewed then Manoj Pandey and Astana as to what were the circumstances why this happened. So I said, this is, I called off the attack. Rest, as far as a certain situation, you can do it. Now, connected with this is a very interesting aspect that Amul Astana, there and then, the next day, wrote off an inland letter addressed to the Chief of Army Staff, right, in which he said that this is my status of equipment, where I've got already 1 mortar and 3 rounds and this thing, and I'm being asked to attack. Right there. That letter somehow managed, thanks to the field post office, managed to reach General Malik. This was around maybe after 10 days, 15 days. Malik mentions this as a specific incident in his book. He says, my conscience then irked me, though he asked General Dhillon, I think MLI was the, MGO. He said, everybody's well equipped, everything is there, as such. So he said, but my conscience irked me. And then I came down to 15 Corps headquarters. That's what he writes in the book and often says. And then I told them, no, back. Now give me the exact details. And he says, this boy was right. And then he got them the necessary equipment. But like I said, all
चिट्ठी लिखी inline letter पे to the Chief of Army Staff.
Very unique.
Very unique.
Right? And वो पहुंच गई. And this is mentioned in General Malik's book. Right? Okay, there. Right? It is there, that part of that article also, which recently came out on Manoj. Right? So what I'm trying to say is, these boys were not refusing. They were only posing a problem that this is the stakes there. This is your decision. Tell us.
And your leadership, sir, इसमें कि आपने you stood with your troops. जो आपके साथ 3 दिन पहले ही आपकी कमांड, 4 दिन पहले आपकी कमांड में आए, 4-5 दिन पहले, when the CO has told you, and a brave soldier, young officer like Manoj Pandey has said कि सर ये suicidal mission है, इसको मतलब करने का कहोगे तो चले जाएंगे लेकिन कोई फायदा नहीं है. And then this is what in an interview Vikramjit also mentions about your leadership, so that very few this is what senior officer is supposed to be.
So that's an aspect we'll come to sometime later and discuss there. That apart from physical courage, as you graduate into seniority, moral courage is something that has to.
Exactly. मैं यही बात की moral courage and जो real military ethics है, वो ये है कि as senior commander आप हर चीज में yes sir नहीं होना है. You can always give a good feedback, so that otherwise sir, देखो लड़ाई में एक भी सिपाही मरता है तो इतना दुख होता है. एंड इमेजिन यू गो फॉर अटैक्स लाइक दिस एंड यू हैव मेनी कैजुअलिटीज, फिर बहुत मुश्किल है जवाब देना अपनी कॉन्शियस को भी और उन परिवारों को भी. सो नाउ इसके बाद सर फिर
सो नाउ लाइक आई सेड, आफ्टर दिस जनरल मलिक, बाय दिस टाइम the 20th May had come. General Malik, who was in Poland, had come back. Right?
अच्छा, तो चीफ वाज अब्रॉड जब ये सब हो रहा था, ये सारा कुछ?
Yes, from 9th May till 17th May, he was on a visit to Poland, which the vice chief, the corps commander, DGMO, advised him that there's no need. Some intrusions have taken place. We'll take care of them. Right? And while he was away, he probably was getting a feedback of everything there. But the impression was that, sir, attacks are being launched, and the intrusion is being hemmed in. And by the time you come, hardly anything will be left. And then you come and report to the government of India. Right? Okay, there fully. Because Army also didn't report to the government of India, because Army approached.
अभी तक सर ये government of India को नहीं पता था, defense minister को और
the government of India has got its own channels, intelligence bureau, others. So वो तो पता था. But officially, the army had not approached there that this is not a manageable situation, or it is a difficult situation, because there are articles of Tipnis, who was the then air chief, saying that vice chief came to me, Chandrasekhar, asking that please give me these attack captors, right? Give me aircraft. So he says, I told him I cannot release them till the government gets clearance, because that is the way the thing is structured in India, that he can't do it on his own there. And there's the Air Force's escalatory element, and therefore it is not in his power to do it there, right? Also, there were issues that they said, humko ye attack captors de do, which are under op control, but attack captors could not fly above 3,000 meters, so they were of no use there, etc. So all these things have happened. So when Malik came in, he took the stock of the situation, and then he issued some stabilizing. Firstly, he had to go to face the Prime Minister and said the situation is tight, and therefore I need the Air Force. But the government laid down the orders that only up to the line of control. Now that is the aspect we'll cover separately later. That the war was fought at the tactical level, the operational art level, and the strategic level. How each one did, we'll cover at the end of it, right? But now what I'm trying to say is, when he came in, the Air Force was allowed for own side of the line of control. Right? But by that time, what had happened? we had got meshed in. That means by attacking, and in the mountains, once you are meshed in, even on the ground, you don't know who's sitting where. Your fire can hit the other person. Leave alone the Air Force, which is going to fire into the area. They need a clean target, right, which is free from safety distances. Secondly, the Air Force weapons, because of the high altitude, the ballistics were, for standoff weapons were,
All or A,
not accurate, right? Okay. So therefore, they were used, but they were used with selectively in like Muntotalo, which was in Batalik later. They were very effectively used, right? But in other areas, like attacking a top of a ridge line, attacking this thing, in certain areas where the troops are already in contact, no. Even artillery had to be.
मतलब कोई आइडिया ही नहीं लगता सर उन पहाड़ियों पे, कुछ पता ही नहीं चलता,
हाँ,
हेलीकॉप्टर से नहीं पता चलता, फाइटर से तो आप सोचो सर, इट्स ऑलमोस्ट इम्पॉसिबल टू डिस्टिंग्विश।
गोली आ रही है, वो खाली मिस करती है तो पता नहीं कहाँ वो 4 किलोमीटर दूर चली जाती है, सच्ची बात है, ठीक है ना, वहां कौन बैठा है पता नहीं है।
सर विल कम बैक टू योर सेक्टर सर, मेरे खास तौर पे ऑडियंस विल लाइक टू नो अबाउट एक्शन ऑफ मनोज पांडे सर, आपके सेक्टर में परमवीर चक्र, वन परमवीर चक्र इन योर सेक्टर सर, और फिर किस तरीके से 3-4 जो बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट बैटल्स थे, एंड योर ब्रिगेड हैज द क्रेडिट ऑफ कैप्चरिंग 6 प्रिजनर्स ऑफ वॉर, वो भी मैं आपसे जानना चाहता हूं कि आपने कहां पर ये पाकिस्तानी पकड़े, उनसे क्या सिचुएशन क्लियर हुई, सो दैट इट बिकम्स क्लियर कि हाउ योर ब्रिगेड फॉट दिस टिल, आपके एरिया में कब यू हैड क्लियर द इंट्रूजन सर, आई थिंक मिड जुलाई।
Now I'm going to a time frame that we are around 25th May. The Chief of Army Staff is back, and then he came in, he gave some directions which had some stabilizing effect, in the sense he said the normal attack ratio is 1:3, but for Dras, Tiger Hill, etc., I think he laid it as 1:10. For Batalik sector, he laid it as 1:15. That means
तो ये भी मैं एक्सप्लेन कर दूं कि 1:15 मीन्स अगर हम सोचते हैं एक पाकिस्तानी सिपाही है तो उसको 15 हमें इंडियन सोल्जर्स चाहिए, तो एक सेक्शन है तो 15 सेक्शंस, अगर एक पाकिस्तान की कंपनी है तो 15 कंपनीज, 15 कंपनीज में आप अंदाजा लगा लो एक बटालियन में 4 कंपनी होती हैं, तो आपको 4 बटालियन चाहिए, ब्रिगेड चाहिए एक पाकिस्तानी कंपनी को हटाने के लिए। ये रेशियो है बटालिक में जो चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ ने आपने डिसाइड किया, इसीलिए माउंटेन्स ईट ट्रूप्स, इट इज सो डिफिकल्ट टू फाइट हियर,
and especially when you are fighting 2 days ahead of the road, because then, like I said, they eat up.
कोई लॉजिस्टिक बेस नहीं, कोई तैयारी नहीं, और इन यूनिट्स की कोई ट्रेनिंग भी नहीं थी इस चीज की, ना ही कोई अंदेशा था सर।
So with this background now, and he also put an end to some indiscriminate attacks which were being, I won't use the indiscriminate, because like I said, that was my view, because I felt that these, like even 111 GR attack being ordered there, but then the reviews on the subject, senior headquarters had its own view there, but these were put a stop to for some time, but then we are told that now built up the momentum, there's time for stabilization has taken place now. So I was visited on 10th June in Chorbatla sector by the Chief of Army Staff, accompanied by the Corps Commander. Yeah, before that, I'll be very candid with you. On 28th May, I was visited by the Army Commander at Dha. So, moment he saw the area, etc., there, he wasn't looking happy. Not happy at my this thing doing. He says, "Son, this is too formidable a task. Right? We may have to deliberate upon it for a long time." What he was trying to say is, we may have to look at it later. Right, okay, there. But meanwhile, let me concentrate on the national highway, because by that time, nothing had happened on the national highway. 28th May, nothing had happened. Right, and because there it's directly interfering, and therefore we'll take it on from there. Right. So there he went away. Then on 10th of June, the chief came, and along with him was the Corps Commander and some people from the MO Directorate. 2 brigadiers were there, Jan Jambal, PS Jambal, and one more at that time. Right. So briefing took place, in which I was asked assessment of the enemy, and I said 600. I want to say 800, but I'll say 600 regulars, right, from the whole of Batalik, including Chorbatla. And by that time, I had captured 1 NLI soldier. Right.
अच्छा,
okay.
एक आपने prisoner of war Northern Light Infantry का पकड़ लिया था।
Right. Okay. There. Right. Unheard, whatever name is. Right. I got the details. So there. So I said, according to myself, this is there, and enough now details are available. They are regulars, they are this, they are proper hold. Every fire type of fire, we have done the fire and move contact there, and we know that they are properly holding this speaks. So therefore, I need troops. I've got about 4 to 5 battalions. Like I said, by the time One Bihar had come in, One Bihar luckily had come in as a full entity. There. So they were put on Jubbar as an independent this thing. So my advantage was that moment you put a senior battalion and an entity full, my headache of a command and control reduces because then I can
ये एक प्रॉपर यूनिट है विद प्रॉपर सीओ एंड एवरीथिंग, इसको आपने जुबार एरिया में डाल दिया,
इंडिपेंडेंट एरिया दे दिया, सर
इंडिपेंडेंट एरिया दे दिया, ठीक
है। फिर 17 गढ़वाल आई, उसको मैंने चाइना नाला दे दिया, ठीक है। Meanwhile, like I said, the 111 GR and was in touch with Kukarthang, and 12 Jackalai was in touch with 0.4812. And Ladakh Scouts, I put them on to the north of Kalubar, Indus Wing and Scout under Colonel Chandio, uske niche kar diya. So by and large, we stabilized. Now, we had an irksome issue of 0.5203, which was our eastern flank, because this area was 2 ridge lines making a bout. Right, they were making a bout, Munthodalo. But on our flank was not clear because 5203 they were sitting and interfering. We had managed to, during this period, right from 17th, 18th May, we had infiltrated and gone down to the line of control from both sides, from China Nala and from Junglungpa, and we could move day in, day out, in the night only. Daytime, we used to not allow them to come down. But in the night, we used to do our movement, maintenance, etc. there. So I maintained the troops all along ready, with the aim of being able to assault. But first, I have to clear my eastern flank because I'm not interfered with, which was 0.5203. All right. And Chor Batla was slightly distant away, which was running as an independent operation. 14th Sikh came. I gave them Chor Batla and I said, you do an independent operation as such after Sonam Wangchuk had done his needful. Right. So this situation. Now, Corps Commander said there are only 40-45 militants. In his book, General Malik, or when his interviews, he denies that aisa kuch hua hai. But obviously, there can be no briefing without assessment of troops, and there otherwise, what are we meeting for? Not for a cup of tea, right? Okay, there. So when said 40-45 militants, I said, so there's no meeting ground there. I am ready to achieve objectives, but now these troops have been for almost a month plus in the open. They are 2 days ahead of the roadhead with very poor logistics. They are no longer fit for assault. But we need to pump in some more additional elements there. But INCO will remotivate them to do the assault. But it has to be a one-time assault with a lot of stocking, with a lot of approval there. So he says the meeting ended and they had a cup of tea with 14 Sikhs. And somehow they were having a photograph. They realized I was missing about 75. I was still at the briefing side. So they waved and, I was in a kind of furious mindset that how can there be a difference between 40-45 militants between the Corps Command.
उनकी assessment थी कि 45 militants हैं और आपकी थी कि 600 regular soldiers.
I said I want to say 800, but 600 Northern Light Infantry there because the Northern Light Infantry pakada tha. Right, and he had said that they were officered by SSG officers, Special Services Group.
SSG is our special forces, Pakistan.
Forces, right? Okay, there. So anyway, I think General Malik, while coming, the photographs are there. He put an arm around me and saying that no, our problem is that was 10th of June. Rolling had not happened. We need results. Right. So I said I'll need troops, but results will be there. But you have to give me some fresh troops there, and the results will be there. So he said, I'll try and do something about it. And that is how he got into his helicopter and the team went away. Immediately, I made a plan for 5203 to clear our eastern flank, pending availability of more troops so that I attack ke liye. Right. Uske liye, I asked Senator Budwar, I said, give me at least 3 fresh companies so that attack. And meanwhile, we had also deliberated that why were we failing in our attacks? Why? Because the height of the features was 3,500 feet. The difference from where we were attacking to the top of the peak was 3,500 feet. Now, undertaking 3,500 feet climb at that area of 15,000 in one night and with fire and move. Moment you do fire and move, it's a delay. One fire comes, you are delayed for about 45 minutes to 1 hour. By the time you can determine that it's safe to move, and you can outmaneuver him and then go back. So we made out a plan that we need troops which are into each company to be in 2 platoon rods. The 2 platoon rods will be such that they'll be equipped on with their weapon, with their equipment, but some water and some this thing, and they will continue to climb irrespectively. So for 5203, we made 3 companies. One 5-para company was planned, one which had come from the glacier, one Ladakh Scout company, which was given additionally, that was only there, and one 12 Jackal rebooted its company, Amol
Alia.
Kalia was there in that, right? They had made some progress, but we are still there. And the battalion attack got converted into a brigade attack because all these elements were there. And I said I'll also be at the base of the hill there. Meanwhile, this 5-para company had certain problems. So we got delayed by another, 48 hours. It was reconstituted, and some lateral transfers were done with another company, and they were made fit and led by Major Karyapa and Lieutenant Surinder. There were 2 officers in that company. Now these people attacked, and at this was night of 20th, and at 2:30 he says, "Sir, I'm the top." The firing captain place, Pakistan, the Pakis had also, NLI had done this thing. They were firing. They were about 100 meters short, making a semicircular on the conical feature. And these chaps had managed to bypass because the boulders were huge. There was no way the Pakistanis could have also had proper interlinking. Very soon, the Ladakh Scout company commander gave okay that I am on the top. So, same with 12 Jackal. Now, as a result, we knew that feature has fallen. So, the Pakistanis then had no choice but to helter-skelter independently fizzle out there. Right?
ये I think आपकी उसका सबसे जबरदस्त एक्शन था सर, which broke the back of the Pakistani resistance in Batalik and Turtuk, this area, Batalik area.
This gave us a clean eastern flank. So now we are, free from all encumbrances, surrounding the enemy through nalas, China Nala, and Junglungpa, and holding the ridges of Jubbar and Kargil War and Kukarthang. But in the area of the Muntotala was their base, and which was connected to across the LOC with their, Pakistan, right? Okay. So it became a clean, now thereafter possible, we could launch the attack. So moment we did this, Pakistani reacted with all the artillery that they had. And we were at the base, CO 5-para was there, CO 12 Jackal was there, I was there, PM was there. So anyway, when the firing came, and then the sprinters were all over. And that is the time I said, yeah, okay, guys, we're done. And I started walking back. Moment I started walking back, I got a splinter on the nose there. But then quickly got this thing, luckily it was not serious there. General Malik was quick on this thing, saying that, admire your staying there in spite of being injured.
I think for a brigade commander to get injured in operations is rare. मतलब आप इतना आगे थे कि दुश्मन की आर्टिलरी फायरिंग में आपको खुद को you were injured in that action.
We were almost at the line of control. Though the enemy was well inside, but on the side it was right almost about 1 kilometer from the line of control. Right? Okay. Right. So, but we were elated because Tololing had happened on 14th May, June. Right. June. So, we were slightly delayed in our initial success, right? They had come up earlier, right? I mean, but when comparing to Dras and Mashko, the initial success went to Tololing, right? Here, this was about 4 days later, right? Thereafter, we quickly made a plan for what we had already visualized. I'd done the encirclement, etc. There, and I asked for some additional troops, and there. And the attack was planned from 28th onwards. Though I was told that you are not getting any fresh troops, we'll see there, but within them. So I re-pulled Kukarthang, pulled half the battalion of 111 GR. And meanwhile, the CO had joined up. in the beginning of June. The officially
New CEO had come in, Lalit Rai.
Right. So he came there with 2 companies as a reserve force. 22 Grenadiers had come in. Right.
So अभी आपके पास 22 Grenadiers, 111 GR, 12 Jacklai, 17 Garhwal, 14 Sikh, 1 Bihar, Ladakh Scouts.
Right. And we can say 14 Sikh was on one side independent. So the rest of them were all surrounding this feature. The rest of them were all surrounding these group of features. Now, why it was necessary here? In other places, there was one feature, let's say you'll say Tolling, right? It may have some sub features. Tiger Hill, it may have some sub features. One had 21 such features. So had one gone sequentially like the operation there, probably one would have taken 2-3 seasons, right? So it was very necessary to somehow encircle and do the thing in one go. And that was how the tactical planning had been done, right? Okay, there. So with this, on 28th, we started the operation. And with the actual assaults going in on the 2nd. And by 4th of July, we were on top in this Kaluga ridgeline, etc. That is in between where Manoj Pandey, delivered his super performance there. And I wish to add before we get cut short there that Manoj Pandey, after that 17 May, whatever task one gave him, he did it so willingly. I sent him to Jubbar. The moment I sent him to Jubbar, he did the homework well. There, meanwhile, One Bihar came, so he got relieved from there. Then again he came back. Then I employed him for another action, probing action, right? And finally, like I said, in the 4th action that he took part, he delivered posthumously there. Hats off to him. Very spirited boy, simple boy, but did that. So it's a separate kind of a.
I know Manoj Pandey, bravest of the brave. I think one of the finest examples of young officers' leadership. Though so many displayed it, so many officers, so many young soldiers displayed this. Sir. So now I want to
further to this, that moment we were on top of these ridge lines. Now the thing was, Munthatalo was in the bowl where we had to descend and then reach the line of control. So there was a race from 4th of July amongst all these battalions. We made that it's like the Eastern Front or the Western Front allies versus Warsaw Pact, whatever it is, that they were all rushing in. And I don't know if I've shared that photograph there, that on 9th of July, we were on the LC. So much so that 2 definite actions took place. Pakistan on the 5th of July panicked. They, realized that we could go across and do the needful, though the policy was that we are not supposed to go across. They also knew the policy. They rushed in their 111 Brigade, which is the Rawalpindi Coup Brigade.
Coup Brigade.
Uski, for FF Frontier Force, there 33 Frontier Force. So those battalions were rushed in and they were made to occupy these posts on the LC. And meanwhile, our buffers had built up a certain amount of capability and they let them panic. There was also an incident where 5 Para, Karyapa, reached out further, on the LC and then realized that these people are all over. So he then said, now we can't be saved. They are attacking us. Hum to sab mar jayenge. Get SOS. And that was the incident which he writes in a book, wherever it is, or somebody else, that they asked for SOS. And that SOS fire was, Seva Souls fire was so effective by our buffers that the Pakistanis got 40 casualties in that. Right?
And Karyappa himself
was saved.
Now I think he's a brigadier now.
Yeah.
I met him when he was deputy in the similar area many years back. So SOS में Save Our Souls की situation इतनी critical, आप हमारे ऊपर ही fire कर दो. 40 Pakistanis casualties you had in this action by Bofors guns.
Right. Amazing. And out of this, one of the incidents is that Indus Wing Ladakh Scouts, Lieutenant Colonel Chandeo, he tells me after the firing that मेरे पास एक बंदा इधर है जिंदा है पाकिस्तानी, उसके leg injury है, and I said I need him, right? So he says, सर मैं कैसे 2 दिन लगेंगे मेरे को नीचे भेजते हुए, स्ट्रेचर के ऊपर मेरे अपने बंदे हैं, मैं उनको भी भेजना है. अच्छा यार ये करना है. दैट इज द टाइम you have to appeal to his good sense, because he's got a consideration for his battalion people, and I understand that is more important. But there, so anyway, this thing one prevailed upon him. So as a result, this happened to be the 6th. So we had captured overall 6 POWs out of the 8 POWs in the war.
हाँ वही 8 हमने प्रिजनर पकड़े पूरे कारगिल में, जो 6 आपके सेक्टर में पकड़े गए थे, और सारे के सारे रेगुलर थे, ये नॉर्दर्न लाइट इन्फेंट्री के
and regular battalions, फ्रंटियर फोर्स के थे, right?
और फ्रंटियर फोर्स के थे.
and,
और इनसे तो डायरी इनका सारा कुछ, तब तक तो पूरा प्लान, और वो मुशर्रफ की टेप भी पकड़ी गई थी, दैट दोस टेप्स वर लीक्ड. काफी कुछ दुनिया को पता लग गया था कि ये कितना बेवकूफी का काम इन्होंने किया है.
And now the thing is, there's a photograph of me with Indrapalan, who was my BM. Now he's the deputy GOC, MNG area. Sorry, not there in Chennai. Right? He talking to this man, and this man is smiling. He's a frontier force chap. He says, "Ab abhi mere ko pata hai, itna experience mere ko hai ki main yahan pahunchi hu, now I'll survive." Right? Okay. But then, why he was smiling was he was narrating the story of the coup. How do you do it? Kata, sir, for us, it's a normal procedure. Everybody got his tasks set. Who's got to go to the parliament building? Who's got to go to the so-and-so? Who's got to go to where?
ये वो कुवाली ब्रिगेड से था ये बंदा.
111 brigade from Rawalpindi se aayi thi. So that was interesting, and therefore we all started laughing, and he was also laughing that it is a set procedure in their case, and this brigade specializes in that. Kani, they got SOPs on the subject. Right, standard operating procedures.
जब आप ये कर रहे थे, कारगिल के 2 साल के बाद, 3 साल के बाद, मैं बांग्लादेश में स्टाफ कॉलेज कर रहा था, और सेकंड स्टाफ कॉलेज अपना इंडिया का करने के बाद, तो मेरे साथ पाकिस्तानी ऑफिसर्स भी थे. तो एक आर्मर्ड कोर का ऑफिसर था जिसपे मैंने कुछ साल पहले एक आर्टिकल लिखा, बहुत वायरल हुआ. तो वो काफी वेट पुट ऑन कर रखा था, उसने काफी मोटा हो रखा था. वो मैंने कहा, यार तेरे को क्या हो गया, तू आर्मर्ड कोर का बंदा थोड़ा फिट हो रहा है. कहता सर, आप लोगों के वैसे मैं पता नहीं स्कार्दू या किलकिट में कहीं पे ब्रिगेड मेजर था, वो आर्मर्ड कोर वाला. कहता है सर, टेबल से हिलने का मौका नहीं मिला 2-3 साल.
So that is where the thing ended, and then General Krishnapal went on record, and there are clippings which I've shared with you, where he says that Batalik 9th of July is cleared. General Malik has written on his book also that 9th July Batalik was cleared.
Absolutely, sir.
Pashko got cleared by about 26 July. Right?
26. हाँ सर. तो सर, इन कंक्लूजन मैं सिर्फ हैट्स ऑफ टू योर लीडरशिप सर, एंड योर दिस थिंग. यंग पीपल जो इसको सुनेंगे सर, इस क्योंकि जो हम क्रिएट कर रहे हैं ना, मैं क्यों इसको आपको लेके आया हूं सर इसमें, कि एक हिस्टोरिकल वो रहेगा सर, ये कि भाई किस प्रकार से, कितनी दिक्कत में आप लोगों ने ये लड़ाई लड़ी, और आपके ऑफिसर्स ने, जवानों ने ये हिम्मत की दाद देनी पड़ेगी सर, हिम्मत की दाद देनी पड़ेगी अक्रॉस सबको, की अंडर सब. सो व्हाट आर द लेसन्स, क्या बताना चाहेंगे आप यंग जनरेशन को इस लड़ाई के बारे में?
I'll, on behalf of the brigade, I'd like to, kind of put across 2-3 points. That this operation was fought in a comparatively the 2 major battles, Dras and Tiger Hill, Tolding and Tiger Hill, and the other one was here, right? This was in a more difficult area, a remote area, with zero publicity. I had only 2 visitors during the war press. One was Bikramjit there, and the other one was Kunal Verma. You're aware of him also. His father had commanded same brigade earlier.
दो ही प्रेस करेस्पॉन्डेंट पहुंचे आपके पास, शिव कुणाल वर्मा एंड विक्रमजीत सिंह. टीवी का कोई नहीं आया, टीवी मीडिया कोई नहीं आया आपके पूरी लड़ाई में इस दौरान.
Right. And whether you like it or not, for whatever reasons, there were other issues that we had fought under 3 Div, which was the holding division, with some this thing of a blame game on the intrusion. 8th Division had done the operation there in the Dras and this thing. The individual awards, etc., were lopsided. All right. They were lopsided there. Some degree of balancing took place later in 2005, when General Satish Nambiar, a very respected senior commander of this thing, he did a Battle and Theatre Honors study group, and where Battle and Theatre Honors were awarded for the war in Kargil. This was good about 6 years later, right? And out of this, one out of the total 17 infantry battalions, 17, which were awarded these Battle and Theatre Honors for the Kargil War, there 7 were of
your brigade.
Batalik, right? So that was some consolation to the boys that at least the battalion role has been there. Though individual roles may people have suffered or not got their due.
But वो fog of war में जो है ना it's very difficult. We all understand. हम यूनिफॉर्म में रहे हैं, मैं उस इशू को टच नहीं करना चाहता कि it's just कई बार बहुत और भी होंगे सर आपकी नजर में who were deserving, but it was just
so that is one. And second is fog of war is there, but somehow due to circumstantial this thing, the representation on what you find today is the Kargil War Memorial. In my brigade's perspective, or in 70 Brigade perspective, that is a 8-div memorial, because 8-div fought there, right? It has got renamed as the Kargil Memorial, but it really does not take into the equal contribution, or if not more, but if you take the success there, that minimum casualties, maximum enemy casualties, maximum prisoners, maximum success, earliest eviction, all that Batalik sector has not got its representation there, because that is basically a 8-day memorial, which is being termed as a Kargil Memorial. So there is a need now that with 25 years coming in, and there's the need to do this rebalancing and give Batalik its due status and examine its operations there and give it its due status, because at the moment, like I said, with all the battalions wherever I come across, finally 70 Brigade had also the unique issue that from 0 battalions, it finally had 11 battalions. And as you are aware, and आपके व्यूअर्स को पता होना चाहिए, ब्रिगेड के पास खाली 3 बटालियन होती आमतौर पे एवरेज, बट यहाँ 11 बटालियन थी, राइट? ओके, देयर 11 बटालियन को how I don't say it's my management capability or my brigade's management capability, it is their contribution that how they managed to एक दूसरे के साथ मिलाप करके, I would call it a large factor to the standardization of that we have achieved over the years as the Indian Army there, that we somehow adjusted to each other and managed to cooperate and deliver what we did. But like I said, these are unique forms, and why they have not got highlighted is because somewhere we want to write history in this old stalemated way. We are not ready to examine how are 11 battalions under 1 brigade commander. Suddenly it doesn't fall into any history pattern. Then military lessons are very difficult to analyze. So somehow our military history written by various people, they shy away from examining anything new, and that is not the correct military lesson. That is not the correct. They want to
stand. We must do a critique. इसका मतलब critique होना चाहिए, क्योंकि अभी 24 साल हो गए सर, और as a mature nation, mature army, we must now openly admit कि हाँ ये तभी तो आने वाली जनरेशन पढ़ेंगे इस वॉर को, स्टाफ कॉलेज में पढ़ेंगे, पार्ट बी पार्ट डी में पढ़ेंगे. दैट इज व्हाट हिस्ट्री, मिलिट्री हिस्ट्री इज ऑल अबाउट, टू लर्न लेसन्स. उसमें हमारी अच्छाइयां हमें सबको पता है किस प्रकार से जो इंडियन आर्मी कर सकती है, कोई दुनिया की फौज कर नहीं सकती है. 15,000 से 18,000 के हाइट्स पे जाके लड़ना कोई ये आम इंसान के बस की बात नहीं है. सो वी ऑल नो आवर स्ट्रेंथ, बट समवेयर क्रिटिकली वी मस्ट एग्जामिन.
That is where I was coming to. The point was that there is no denying it. There's no better and nobody braver than our boys and our young officers who did the tactical level actually eviction of the enemy. There's no denying it. They are the super best. We also had a strategic level problems which were done rather well, because 1998 we had done the blast, 5 blasts, if you remember, including the thermonuclear one. There was in the world scenario, trying to put sanctions against us, etc. there. We did not want to sound escalatory, right? So, but we used the Air Force, but we used it on our own side. So there was a whole issue or dimensions of managing the Kargil conflict without being sounding escalatory or irresponsible to the international community. So all those things were rather well handled at the Prime Minister.
Absolutely,
Right?
मैं हर जगह ये बोलता हूँ
Yeah.
कि I think we played all the you know instruments of power of the nation. जैसे 71 में थे सर, something similar was played out in 99 Kargil War. Our diplomacy, our foreign policy, our government, our ministry, the three services. You know, I think we showed great amount of maturity at the strategic level. Absolutely, no denying that.
Right. And the only element where it needs further examination, because in the euphoria, we don't want to question it. But now, 25 years later, for the right lessons to be drawn, there's that operational art level, which we say, which is from the brigade or, div level up to the army headquarter military operations level, which needs examination with the purpose of learning on how to conduct such operations with lesser casualties. Why, where, how? Because this kind of a scenario cannot be, in the coming generations, it'll be difficult to repeat. Asking so much of sacrifices of so many people. Our boys did it. They'll do it again. But if it can be done in a more cost-effective manner.
कैजुअलिटीज कम होनी चाहिए, टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज करना चाहिए, और कहीं ना कहीं सर्विलेंस, रिकॉनेसेंस, इंटेलिजेंस, ऑब्जर्वेशन, इस चीज की तरफ बहुत ज्यादा तवज्जो देने की जरूरत है.
So this portion of the thing needs now a focus 25 years later, and there's nothing secret now. 25 years later, how does it make a difference? Everything is open. I think the documents become open.
So many books have been written, sir. So many books have been written. So many documents are available. Even Pakistanis have written on this in this war.
So now we need to corroborate the two, that what was fought, which was there, and reset the history so that the people feel happy that the correct picture has emerged after 25 years. Otherwise, we'll be seen as part of the only the ongoing process without a change there, which also does not gel well with our image of a mature army, which is now modernizing further and further.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. Such an honor to speak to a seasoned soldier like you. I wish we had got to serve with you under your leadership, and I wish one had seen you command a division and a corps and an army, sir, because इस type का profile, इस type का all round, मतलब मैंने बहुत कम देखा है, sir. So hats off to you, sir. और 24 साल के बाद आप में उतनी एनर्जी है, उतना ही जोश, उतना डिटेल में आपको हर चीज याद है, sir. Wonderful talking to you, sir. Thank you very much for your service and your contribution to this op Vijay, sir. Thank you very much. Jai
Thank you. And in the end, we have to acknowledge the contribution only of our soldiers and of our young boys, officers. We owe everything to them. Thank you so much.
We owe everything to them. Thank you, sir. Jai Hind, sir.
Jai Hind.